Grant, Danny, 1067, the fan. Welcome back. It is Monday. We got a couple of awesome prizes we're giving away today as well. Should set the table for that here right off the top. So coming up at 4 ahead of the Beltway Blitz, we've got tickets to the Giant Barbecue Battle. This will be sick. The 4-pack of tickets could be yours. It's the 32nd annual Giant Barbecue Battle. And then at 6 o'clock this evening, right before we get ready to say goodbye, we're done at 6:15. Nats pregame with Charlie and Dave at that time. We're giving away tickets to Nicki Minaj at Capital One Arena. A pretty big show, Danny.
That is bigly. That Giant Barbecue Battle, I've done that in the past. That is an awesome day.
It is really good.
That's one of my. Have you ever gotten to go to that?
I have.
That is all you do is hang out with really nice people, and they're like, "Do you want this delicious food?" Yes, yes, I do. And then you meet someone else. Hey, man, do you want this delicious food? Yes, yes, I do. And that's the day.
Will there be brisket?
Mm-hmm.
Will there be ribs? If
Ribs.
the answers to those things are yes, I'll be there. I think you and I, don't talk enough about burn ends as well. Big burn ends guy.
Huge.
You don't see those at a lot of places. Why is that?
I think it's hard. I think it's hard to do. I think that's to me, that's if I can wax poetic for a moment. I don't know anything. I'm just a pudgy dude that likes to eat it. But I think that burnt end is kind of the mark of a place that's like, you know what? We'll do the extra. We'll go the extra mile. This is the piece of the slab part of the meat that nobody else really wants. We'll work those extra hours to make the most delicious thing, because that's about the labor. The burnt end, that's not as good as the regular part of the rib, but the burnt end is usually the thing you're like, I don't really want that as part of my meat. But they make it so good and they do all the extra stuff. It's the mark of a good place.
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of barbecue places I go to, it's not on the menu. But you're out of state, out of the area, you go somewhere like a barbecue capital haven type place, burn ends are everywhere. Let's go to the phones, 800-636-1067. We were talking about Brandon McManus being released by the Commanders just a few days after they said they'd be looking into, and I'm paraphrasing, but reserving judgment until they found out more about what happened on the plane with allegations against their kicker. He's no longer their kicker. They have cut him. Carl is in Calvert on G&D. What's up, Carl? Thanks for the call.
How you guys doing on the day that Brandon McManus got released day?
Day.
Guys, if you mentioned it, I'm sorry for repeating the point, but the absolute stench of sexual assault that Dan Snyder, other lower employees like Larry Michael, the stench of sexual assault that they left on this franchise, just like, decades and decades ago, the stench of racism that previous owners left on this franchise. I believe Adam Harris wants to have almost a zero tolerance. As you guys mentioned, if you're the star quarterback, you're obviously going to have a little bit of leeway. But I think he wants to have as close to a zero tolerance policy after the stench of what Dan Snyder left on that franchise.
So we didn't really bring that up in the first segment. Probably should have. It did come up quite a bit late last week when we discussed these allegations.
Yeah, it's hard to ignore the backdrop, right?
It's pertinent. They came in here. The only reason Josh Harris owns the team is because of a toxic workplace and a horrendous culture and mistreatment of employees, mostly female employees. And without those things, I think Dan Snyder probably still owns this team. So you can't take over in that image and kind of with that situation and not take this all very seriously. I'm not suggesting they shouldn't, right? They absolutely have to. But I agree with him completely. If this was a different organization where you didn't have the Washington Post story, you didn't have the allegations about Dan Snyder, you weren't here to quote unquote clean up the culture, that we have not talked in a lot of other markets as football show and a radio show for hours and hours and hours about how female employees have been treated and allegations against your owner, then maybe you treat this differently. But I think there is this zero tolerance where maybe here more than in other places, the allegation is enough. Like, let's not have these types of allegations come our way. We've got to go X amount of months, X amount of years with people viewing us through a different light so that we can get out of the past and the shadows of what was.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good comp, and there isn't one because, again, it's very touchy. But this is the first thing I thought of. The league goes, all right, we're going to allow, this is the NFL, we're going to allow gambling, but nobody can bet on any kind of games with having to do with football. Nobody. The first guy that did it or was alleged to have done it, Calvin Ridley, book's going to get thrown at you, right? And again, it's not the same. It's not apples to apples. I understand that. But the first person that's got the stench of this or the allegation thing hanging over his head, post Snyder, post all of this stuff, you're probably not going to get as much leeway or benefit of the doubt maybe as you deserve. And I don't know that that's fair. In fact, I'm sure it's not fair. But I think that maybe has something to do with it, honestly, with the backdrop.
You didn't want to be the first one fighting this fight. I think the way I said it last week, which was dumb, was there's never a good time for these allegations. It's about as bad as it gets, though.
Mm-hmm.
If you're McManus in a hypothetical where you're sitting there and you're innocent and you're saying, oh, come on, this is a misunderstanding, or I didn't do that, or this is not exactly how it went down. I think some of that matters less right now in the moment. And you know that. You're sitting there at home, you're talking to your agent or whoever, and they're saying, this is a team that just got through fighting all of these things. They're not going to be willing to go to the end of the marathon to defend you. And again, this isn't a hypothetical where we're talking from the perspective of his point of view, if he, in fact, and his attorney, Brett Galloway, are correct. By the way, I want to read the statement from his attorney.
Please.
Galloway put out after he was released, Brandon would like to thank the Washington Commanders for their opportunity to be a part of the organization. However, we reiterate that the allegations against Brandon are and remain absolutely false, and importantly, are contradicted by indisputable evidence and the accuser's own prior inconsistent statements and omissions. While we are disappointed with the team's decision to release Brandon before we had the opportunity to defend against these fabricated claims, we will aggressively defend and clear Brandon's full name and reputation through the legal process. We intend to defeat these claims, fully exonerate him, and look forward to seeing him back on the field where he belongs, end quote. Couple of new parts, because his first, but he says, like he did before, these claims are false. And then he goes on to say, contradicted by indisputable evidence and accuser's own prior inconsistent statements and omissions. Now, we don't know what that means because we haven't seen any of the documents that he has,
right?
But I wonder what he's suggesting.
I mean, clearly, right? I mean, that stands out. The other part, or the first statement is, we'll vigorously defend this. He's innocent, etc. The way a defense attorney would.
Pretty cookie cutter.
Yeah. The next layer or the next level up is they're not telling the truth. There's indisputable evidence as such.
Yeah, and now he's saying we've got evidence,
and there's
Brandon's
inconsistencies.
Right. Yeah. Let's go to Brandon in Waldorf on G&D. How are you?
I'm great, you guys. Just want to make a quick comment. First of all, I agree with you guys. I mean, no one's going to stand for this more, especially not this organization. I find it, I find it kind of interesting that when the story first broke a week and a half ago, they announced it like this. Brandon McManus was accused of this, that, and the other, but this was his time previously in Jacksonville. Like, Washington definitely separated themselves from the very beginning. Also, side note, guys, you were talking about burnt ends. If you go to Costco, they have a brand called Kirkland that sells great burnt ends. You put your sauce on them, you stick them a few minutes later. Wow.
I've had them. They're amazing.
They're great.
They come in like that little, like a kit, for lack of a better term, but it's like a little tray with the white paper that slides off the top, right?
Yep.
They're so good, dude. Thank you for the call. Appreciate you. I don't remember the Commanders in a statement necessarily distancing themselves to that extent. I think to his point, though, they did say, in just talking about what happened, like while he was on the Jaguars, if that's what he's referencing, 1 year ago. I remember, though, a couple of even media members in town, like John Keim from ESPN, when he posted his story on this, he said NFL kicker Brandon McManus, which I found really interesting because he's a Commanders beat reporter and he plays for the Commanders. And maybe most people didn't think about that, but as someone who's had to write those stories or done those tweets in the past, you would say, generally, Commanders kicker Brandon McManus is being accused of. And he said NFL kicker Brandon McManus, which I just found interesting because it is a way, it's kind of a solid by him for the org, in a sense, to distance him from the team. And maybe his thought was he didn't do this when he was with the team. He did it as a Jaguar. The team didn't know it. They deserve to not be dragged into this. I don't know if he thought that much about it. But I did find that really interesting because you don't normally, like, if you're referring to
It's
Terry
a good
McLaurin,
catch. Yeah.
you don't say NFL wide receiver
Who
Terry
currently
McLaurin.
plays for Washington. Yeah,
It's
you
just
wouldn't do that.
Commanders receiver Terry McLaurin. And there were plenty of stories out there that said NFL kicker. If he's a free agent, you would refer to him that way. He's now a Commander.
It's a good catch. Yeah. They've like done everything they and rightfully so, obviously. Again, the point is you're trying to put up a wall or barrier or chasm, or whatever analogy you want to use, between you and the alleged thing. And they should in this case, most specifically, because it 100% didn't occur under their supervision. Not lost on me is the fact that this is part of a larger substantive problem, it sounds like, with Jacksonville and the team playing. By the way, it's not as if they were sitting there quietly, playing tiddlywinks or playing handheld video games or just playing cards with each other. It sounds like there was a lot of tomfoolery and ballyhoo at a minimum going on, and Washington doesn't want to be associated with that. Understandable.
Victor Robles has found a new home. We'll tell you where he's going to be playing. Also, with Justin Jefferson getting paid handsomely today, something we'll talk about in detail in 20 minutes at 3 o'clock. There are other receivers who are making demands of their teams. We'll tell you about that next. Grant and Danny on the Fan. A congratulations is in order for Victor Robles, who gets a fresh start for the first time in his professional baseball career. He's got a home that isn't D.C. It just didn't work out for many, many years. It felt like a long time coming, but he was just running into outs on base, making too many mistakes, and worn out his welcome here. Nats moved on. He has agreed to terms today with the Seattle Mariners. So Victor Robles put out a very nice statement, if you guys saw it over the weekend on Instagram, essentially saying DC will always be a big part of his heart. And he was nervous when he first got called up about how DC would react to him, and everyone was so pleasant and kind, and he loves the fans. It's a really, really well done statement. Robles to the Seattle Mariners to continue his career.
That's your first place Seattle Mariners, by the way, in a very crowded AL West. I had a good buddy through comedy who's a Mariners fan, lives out there in Seattle, texted me right away, and he's like, what am I getting? What's the deal? And I went, oh, how much time do you have? You're going to be tantalized by some of the ability. It's going to look effortless and easy, and you're going to be like, oh, my God, how did they let this guy go? And then you'll see. Then you'll see how they let this guy go. It's happening. Just give it a time. But I'm happy for Victor.
I don't know that they're going to be that tantalized. I hope they get that, but that would involve some big moments early. He's going to make some nice catches in the outfield probably.
And that's kind of my point. He'll glide around so fast and it'll look effortless. And you're going, this is a predator drone in center field.
Yeah,
and
but
he'll run fast.
I don't think he's going to hit enough early for them to feel like this guy shouldn't have been available. Like, you can find defensive players anywhere, just about. In the minor leagues, there's all kinds of great defensive center fielders who don't hit that much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to Vince and Akakeek on G&D. How are you, Vince?
What's up, guys?
Hey, man.
So on the McManus thing, I could say, as much as I don't know you guys outside of the radio, that it's fair to say that you guys might be accused or falsely accused for eating too much at the barbecue. I doubt that you guys would ever be falsely accused of selling drugs. When it comes to this type of thing, yeah, legal defense, all that, I just feel like certain things, your name just shouldn't be associated with. And once it is, get another gig somewhere else on another team. But you can't be here. Like, we've had too much of this. So good riddance. Hopefully he didn't do it. If he didn't, I hope he's vindicated. But
to be clear then, Vince, and we're in lockstep, just so you know, that if he did what is alleged, he should not only not play for Washington, but he shouldn't play in the league. And frankly, if he did what's alleged, that's a crime. I'd like to see him actually prosecuted for that and arrested. And that's a real thing, right? We agree on all that. But what you just said to me is the allegation should be enough to cut a player in general.
That's why I am with it.
That's a dangerous place to be, don't you think? That's not saying that out loud doesn't make you uncomfortable. That if anybody comes forward and claims you did something, that you get cut.
Not at all. Not at all. It really doesn't, because the way I'm built and the way I'm set up, I'm not putting myself in certain places to be in certain situations. And there were a lot of other players on that on that plane, but Brandon McManus' name came up, and a lot of other players might have came up, but some other players did not. I'm going to always be that other player that did not. My mom taught me, I don't care if all 30 kids in the classroom acting up, the teacher better say at least one kid was on point. And that's the way I come up. So it's certain things my name won't be associated with. Now, if you say, we call Vince eating too much cheesecake, he probably did that.
Vince may be guilty.
He loves his cheesecake, that Vince.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's just, it's something that's just not where I am mentally. I'm too much of a believer in due process.
Can I say that I like his point, actually?
Sure.
I just disagree with his eventual decision on it, right? I think there's something to be said for, like, Danny, you've been really good in your career at not getting accused of anything crazy, right? Like, my point is to just write in Sharpie, the allegation is enough for you to lose your job, for your life to be ruined. I'm not picking up that pen. If you want to, that's cool. I think every case, this is a crazy idea in 2024, I understand, should be investigated thoroughly, should be dug into. You can't really do a thorough investigation in a few days. Now, if they came across a video, if they came across evidence, if they called the Jags and they said, here's two players that were sitting in his row who will corroborate the story, good enough. That's an investigation, and it was pretty quick because it was easy.
Mhm.
But if you're asking me, do I agree or disagree with his premise, which is point blank, and I clarified with him, an allegation means that you put yourself in a bad spot, and that's enough for me to say he's gone. I'm just not going to go there.
Yeah, again, it's one example, and people could come up with 1,000 examples in the other direction. But here's the point, because we're talking about innocence. I keep saying the name. Matt Araiza was released immediately by the Buffalo Bills when a horrible accusation was thrown his way. The prosecutor in the case literally said after the proceedings began, he didn't have a job for a couple of years. He wasn't there. Not only was he was present, as Vince was talking about, and something was going on, and he was adjacent or he was close by, but he may have been one of the good behaving guys he wasn't present for it.
Maybe he was raised well too, and he decided not to go to the party because he knew that bad stuff was going to
He
happen.
wasn't there. So like that sort of stuff puts the fear of God in me when it comes to this stuff. And there's no other alternative than it's horrible on either end, right? If it happened, it's horrible. If it didn't happen, it's also horrible to a degree. Not as bad as if it did, but this is now a scarlet letter on Brandon McManus. And if he's innocent of it, that doesn't go away. The perception is still there. And he's now lost his gig because of it.
Well, he'll always be Brandon McManus, who was once accused of sexual assault,
Yeah.
That part, the moment there's an allegation, you never get that back. The difference, though, here is we're not talking about how will he be viewed forever. He's going to be viewed through this lens.
Mm-hmm.
Does the team cut you or does the team not cut you? Do you lose your job? Do you lose your career or do you not? And generally, there's been more of a threshold than the quick judgment of the masses that put you in a bucket with a lot of bad people because you're alleged to have done something pretty terrible. But we will get more and more information on this as it develops. For now, though, it really doesn't matter. The team has moved on. They have cut him. He's no longer the kicker. The allegations are awful. And if he did those things, then he's probably kicked for the final time in the league correctly.
Yeah.
Him and his lawyer say that he didn't do them. Process begins to play out now, and it'll happen without Washington being involved as they'll find a new kicker. G&D on the Fan. Speaking of the NFL, my guy, Justin Jefferson, getting all the money from the Vikings. A record deal for a non-quarterback. What does this mean for the wide receiver position and for spending in the NFL moving forward? We'll get into that next on Grant and Danny. The Grant and Danny Show is exclusively sponsored by the law firm of Condori and Murrah. They provide legal services in estate planning, elder law, and probate admin. Schedule your free consultation with their Fairfax-based attorneys by visiting kmlawyers.com. Be sure to mention the show. You'll get a discount. kmlawyers.com. In 1 hour, we've got tickets to the Giant Barbecue Battle. That's at 4 o'clock ahead of the Blitz. And in 3 hours at 6 p.m. tonight, tickets to Nicki Minaj at Capital One Arena. So make sure you're listening at that time as we take you up to 6:15 on Grant and Danny. We're live all over D.C. on 106.7. We're live in Richmond on AM 910, FM 105.1. And we are live coast to coast video streaming on YouTube on 106.7 The Fan's YouTube page. So you can check us out and watch the stream there if you would like. Danny, the Brinks truck has been backed up. Beep, beep, beep. Justin Jefferson has been paid. The incredible Minnesota Vikings wide receiver, who has undoubtedly been the best pass catcher in the National Football League over the last 4 seasons since he came into the NFL, has been paid a record sum of money today. How about this deal for Jettas? 4 years, $140 million, including $110 million in guaranteed money, making him not only the highest paid wideout in league history, but the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Nobody, other than at the quarterback position, has ever gotten a deal like the one Jefferson agreed to with the Vikings today. The deal includes $88.7 million due at signing. So when he rolls up to the facility right around now or tomorrow or whenever that is, that direct deposit into his account
Refresh
is for
refresh.
$88 million. Like when me and my wife on Thursday night are having conversations, scratching our heads going, all right, we can move this over there. We can move that there. And then she goes, well, you get paid tomorrow, right? And I'm like, yep, tomorrow it hits. Midnight's coming. Keep looking, right? For him, that's $88 million he's waiting
88
on.
mil.
Oh, man.
Nice.
Good for Justin Jefferson, my guy.
Absolute badass.
This is my favorite player in the NFL right now, other than Commanders, I guess I should say. But just generally, I love watching Jettas. 88 catches as a rookie for 1,400 yards. Think about that. That 2020 pandemic year, you knew right away, this guy's different. Kirk to Jefferson was incredible from game one. 108 catches for 1,600 yards in his second season. The big year, if I could call it that, because that's so dismissive and irresponsible in reference to his other years. But his monster year, Danny, was year 3 in 22 when he went 128 grabs, 1,800 yards, averaged over 106 yards per game. This past year, he missed 8 games, had a couple different injuries he was dealing with. So he only had, in 10 games, 68 catches for 1,000 yards.
And he was on a better yards per game pace, by the way, this year than he was even last year.
Good point. He would have
Yep.
finished up with nearly 1,900 yards if he played 18 games this year.
He is fantastic. And normally the guy that can kind of do everything is a bit more stout than he is. You know, you think of a Terrell Owens type or someone that's kind of, can be that physical. I'm telling you, nobody ever squares him up. Nobody can stay with him. He's faster. He's quicker. He's precise as a route runner. He catches everything. Remember that one game when Minnesota was in Buffalo where he and Stephon Diggs had like dueling banjos for the greatest catch of the year? And on a 4th and whatever, in traffic, being just mauled like he got dropped into the bear cage, he caught a ball with like his pinky's fingertip and snagged it in like it was Velcro. And it's like, let's examine the sticky on his hand. It was the best catch I've ever seen.
Stretch Armstrong catch.
Yeah.
That was the bleep it, although Kirk doesn't cuss, so it would be frick it.
Darn it.
That was the dag nabbit Justin's down there somewhere throw against the Bills where you just kind of launch it up. And there's mic'd up audio and video from the O'Connell Cousins conversation before the play. He's like, look, we're going to move everyone over to this side. We're going to have Justin over here. They're going to double him. There's going to be at least 2 defenders. There's going to be some traffic. Just throw it as high over top of him as you can, and let's let him try to go get it. I mean, it was all like planned.
Yeah.
It's not like it was this wacky crazy thing. It was all done by design. You give O'Connell credit, Cousins credit, and then 97% of the credit.
A lot of the credit there
To Justin Jefferson,
Mhm.
like as in all of it, right? He goes up and he makes, as you said, one of the most incredible catches I've ever seen. But he could just do stuff like that. He is different. What's funny is he played college ball at LSU with Jamar Chase. And while Chase is also one of the best receivers in the league, now he gets paid among the guys with CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk, who have their hand out wanting a payday post Jefferson at the exploding market of the receiver position. Jefferson was not viewed as this type of prospect. And I'm not pretending like he wasn't supposed to be good. He was a top 25 pick. He was a first rounder out of LSU. He was a beast in college with Joe Burrow. But if you go back, Jalen Reagor was taking a pick ahead of him. There were a lot of people who thought Jefferson was okay as a prospect. He was going to be good, but we'll see what happens. First rounder, that range often doesn't pan out. Nobody, even the Vikings, nobody knew what they were getting in this player. And this is how it often happens. It's not the Marvin Harrison Jr. must take in the top 5 or the can't miss guy who's quote unquote generational, we're told, leading up to the draft. It's maybe right situation, right scheme, right fit, whatever, with the unbelievable physical talent and a worker. And next thing you know, you get so far for Justin Jefferson through 4 seasons, 60 games, 30 touchdowns, almost 6,000 yards, and almost 400 catches.
Seems pretty good. More yards than anybody else through 4 years in NFL history. That's with missing a bunch of games. He's just incredible.
Yeah, he holds just about every meaningful record for the first 4 seasons of a career at the wide receiver position. And you said this. Well, I mean, what are his... He doesn't have flaws, I guess, but like, what does he work on? The idea as a coach or as a team is you always are trying to make your players better. I don't know how you make that guy better. I don't know what he doesn't do well at this point.
So this is relative, right? Again, this is with the understanding that he's the best in the league. You don't see that many times where let's just throw him the hitch and he's now a punt returner. You know what I mean? Like you flip it to and Amon-Ra St. Brown, or you flip it to a Tyreek Hill and he's going to wiggle through everybody.
Oh, see, I disagree with that.
But I'm saying, again, I'm trying to say this correctly. He's not, because that's not as good as the other attributes he has. Because he's so good at everything else, that's like an 8 out of 10 instead of being a 10 out of 10.
Most of it's vertical. You know, most of it is those 15 to 20-yard crossing dig type routes. Cousins hits him in stride, and then he's got that Deshaun ability to basically add and subtract and set up defenders and make people miss. But my favorite thing the Vikings do, I don't know when they started doing this. It's always with Jefferson. There was some type of maybe like eye contact. It might not even be that they ever communicate non-verbally. It might honestly be based on the defensive front if they have a certain call. But the Vikings were the first team I saw. They would get up to the line, and if Cousins saw that Jefferson had a defender playing off him more than, say, 5 yards or whatever, he would just take a snap on what was clearly like a run play and just without even getting the laces, just sling the ball out to him, and Jefferson would steal 6 or 7 with a stiff arm to the sideline or whatever. And they do that, I would say, once or twice a game.
Oh, yeah.
It was just a way to just get him the ball, get it in his hands, and it's better than a run.
And it keeps everybody honest, too. It forces you to play him a certain way.
But why doesn't every team have that?
This is my point.
Or do that. And I'd like to ask Cousins about this, actually. I wonder how much of that is, if you've got a defender more than 7 off you, we're doing that. Is it based just on, it's got to be a run play and it's got to be a look defensively? Or do they actually have an eye contact?
Like it's an automatic or
like
something.
Justin touches his shoulder pad. I have no idea. But they did it more than any team I've ever seen do it, and it always worked. It was just such an easy, normally it was on an and 10, right? Like a first or second down, and they would just go grab 6 or 7 yards before he gets touched. And to your point, he almost never turned that into a massive gain, but it was like a run for a bunch. You know, it was just cutting the distance down. He's so smart. I just love him. He boxes guys out. His gritty after he scores is my favorite celebration dance. I know you're not a celebration guy. When he catches a ball in the field of play, so non-touchdown, the gritty is his touchdown, Selly. His first down completion, like Santana used to spin the ball, and then he would make the 2-1 with his fingers and point. Jefferson just does this thing where he like flips his arms in the direction that they're moving, and now everyone's starting to do it that I just love. I just think he's a cool dude. I love Justin
So
Jefferson.
those last couple things I don't care about at all, but I hear your point. He plays taller than he is. Do you agree with
How
that?
tall is he? I would think he's 6'2".
He's 6'1" is what he's to me.
Okay.
Like he moves around.
Yes, I think that's fair.
But
You think of him as a big wide receiver.
It's going to sound like a knock, but he moves like he's Herman Moore sometimes, like he's 6'4", because he has those long
he's
strides
also
and he
not
glides.
that twitchy.
Yeah.
To your point, he's more of a glider.
But nobody catches him. And again, this is my sort of, I don't know how to have a better way to say it than this. I think about this with hockey players too. Nobody squares him up. Like it just feels like he never gets hit hard. He never gets lit up. He's never, part of that is good quarterbacking, but the other part is that he's shifty enough where you think you got a kill shot and you don't. That's kind of that next level of athleticism that he has, the ability to kind of change direction and out jump people or out physical people, whatever you want, he can do that.
His NFL career, that involves a rookie season where they really didn't start feeding him until about a month in. And they're like, oh my God, look what we have here. We have to do the Randy Moss rules with this guy where he just gets 10, 15 targets a week. And the big injury where he missed all the time last year and then came back and wasn't quite at 100% off and on. His career average is 98 yards per game. Basically, he steps on the field, he's going for 100. Think about how crazy that is.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a guy here that we love in Terry McLaurin. What would you guess his career average is in yards per game?
68, 69,
I would
70?
think lower than that.
No?
Look it up for me if
I
you
will.
don't mind. While you do that, he averages over 6 catches per game. Basically 6 for 100. I would have said McLaurin, without looking at it, was like 59 yards a game.
66.
Okay. So, but even still, that's 35. That's 2 explosive plays different.
Mm-hmm.
He's unbelievable. So, with this in mind, Justin Jefferson having been paid, I wanted to rank our top 5 wide receivers in the NFL. So, I'll let you go first here, Danny, with your number 5 wide receiver in the National Football League, and we'll work our way up to number 1. Who do you have at number 5?
This was actually the hardest one for me because there's a bunch of guys I could have put here. I didn't put DJ Moore or Amon-Ra St. Brown or even Cooper Kupp or even AJ Brown. Begrudgingly, I put CeeDee Lamb as my number 5 guy who just put up video game numbers this past year.
Number 5 for me in the division in the NFC East, A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles did make the cut for me. I, too, had a lot of problems with the number 5 spot because I left some really good receivers off. But let's not sleep on that stretch A.J. Brown had last year, 5 or 6 weeks in a row, where he went for like $140, $170, $155.
Once or twice?
$160 just every single week. He was getting dudes benched left and right, Emmanuel Forbes among them. Last season, 106 grabs for 1,450 yards. That is Jefferson-like. Back-to-back years since getting to Philly and being a priority, where he was closer to 1,500 yards than 1,400 yards. He has 4 of his 5 seasons well over 1,000, and that's with 3 years in Tennessee, where he didn't really have that great a quarterback throwing him the football. A.J. Brown, because of his size, big, physical, hard to tackle, hard to defend. I love Brown, so I'll put him number 5 on my list.
Number 4, Devontae Adams. He got saddled with the bad quarterback situation, still ended up with over 1,100 yards last year. This guy is, to me, the prototypical what I think of in a wide receiver. Can beat you like a basketball player, crossing you up at the line of scrimmage, can jump, win vertical balls, can go deep, can be everything intermediate. He is the perfect, well-rounded wide receiver who's lost maybe a little bit off his fastball since he was catching, going for 2,000 yards there on Rodgers, but still pretty damn good.
Number 4 for me is Jamar Chase of the Cincinnati Bengals. I should have him a little higher on the list, maybe. Jamar Chase is one of these guys that's always banged up, though. And he's also a little bit more of a playmaker than a volume guy. And while there's no issue with that, my proclivity generally I like the possession, PPR threat, if that makes sense.
It does.
I like the guy who's going to catch 105, 110 over the guy that's going to average 16 per reception. Now, he's a nice blend of the two. He actually caught 100 balls this past season for the first time, and that's while missing 2 games. So he easily could have been up around 110, 115 grabs. His 3-year totals, a little bit of a Justin Jefferson light here, 81 for 1,455, 87 for 1,000, and then 100 for 1,200. For him, the last 3 seasons, 29 touchdowns. I think Chase is one of the most explosive. If we're talking about like big play threats, I'd have him higher up. But just if I'm drafting receivers to start a team with this season, I'd put him number 4.
So he's 3 for me. And I think the biggest thing that has hurt him is the fact that they also have T. Higgins and they also had Tyler Boyd. Too many mouths to feed. I think if he was on a different situation where he was the dude, he would be putting up these, CeeDee Lamb, St. Brown type catch numbers and have prolific yard totals, not unlike Justin Jefferson. I think Chase is a badass.
Number 3 for me is the aforementioned CeeDee Lamb. He has climbed to 3rd on my list. I think it's hard to say this with the Dallas Cowboys because those guys are always often overrated and over talked about. But the last 2 years, he has not gotten enough credit for the seasons he's had. He has become uncoverable at this point. He gets his. He's just going to go out, take the field, and he's going 7 for $1.15, and there's not a whole lot you could do about it. And in that offense, him and Dak are on the same page, have been together for 4 years. The scheme is now, some ways, the passing attack built around him, which I think is really smart. He has gone for 1,100, 1,350, and 1,750 the last 3 years. He's coming off of a 135 catch season, led the NFL. 92-yard catch was the longest in the sport this season. So you think of him, Danny, as a little more like, one of these possession guys. But he didn't get caught on a 90-yard catch and run for a touchdown from the Cowboys. He's got plenty of speed, went for 1,800, has 32 touchdowns now in his career, including 28 of those, I think, in the last 3 years. CeeDee Lamb, number 3.
Number 2 for me, Tyreek Hill. His average season across 2 different stops, one in a prolific offense and then another in a prolific offense, has been just over 1,400 yards and 11 touchdowns combined. 2 straight years, well over 1,700. Missed a game last year, otherwise he would have cracked maybe 1,900 yards. He is uncoverable, one-on-one. He is prolific. He does everything. The only thing he doesn't do is win the jump ball, but it doesn't matter because you can flip it to him in the slot, in motion. You could send him deep. You could send him medium. The threat of him is almost as good as the actual him. He is uncheckable and a weapon that I would love to have on my offense.
He was the best receiver in the league last year. He was better than Jefferson. Played in 6 more games. Big reason why. If he did not miss 2 games, which he did with injury, he would have gone for 2,000 yards. Think about that. He would have had a 2,000-yard receiving as a receiver. Led the NFL with 1,800 yards and 13 touchdowns. That is back-to-back 1,700-yard years for him under McDaniel in Miami, turning up the faders on just how his usage works. He has seasons in his career of 1,100, 1,400, 1,200, 1,200, 1,700, and 1,800 now. He's number 2 on my list as well. So looks like we're in lockstep. The 30-year-old from Miami, 2nd, and then Jefferson, number 1.
Oh, I had Christian Kirk, number 1. I kid, of course, it's Justin Jefferson. He's the best.
So for me, my top 5, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and A.J. Brown. I felt really bad about leaving Devontae Adams off the list, who I've always kind of had as one of my top 2 or 3. But I think he's aged a little bit, long in the tooth. Some of it is usage for sure. But it's just hard for me to rank him ahead of these guys.
I get it.
When he doesn't produce at the same level at this juncture out in Vegas. He was a hard one to leave off the list. Did I have anyone you didn't have? I know you did not have CD on your list. He's 3rd for me.
So you had A.J. Brown, who just missed votes
so
for
I
me.
had 2. So I had A.J. Brown and CD Lamb.
I have Lamb. Lamb was my 5.
Lamb was lower. Okay.
Yeah. So I had Jefferson 1, Hill 2, Jamar Chase 3, Devontae Adams 4, and CD Lamb 5. So our only difference is Adams and Lamb. I hated leaving off Cooper Kupp. I know he had a down year this past year, but talking about 2,000-yard receivers, we're not very far removed from that guy doing exactly that. A.J. Brown, who is just uncoverable and awesome. And DJ Moore, by the way, didn't get any credit with a bad quarterback situation. Top 5 or 6 last year in yards and I think close to double-digit touchdowns. We are receiver rich in the NFL right now, by the way. This is the golden era.
It's a great time for it. I'd love to open up the phones. MGM National Harbor listener lines for you guys at 800-636-1067. That's 800-636-1067 on this right now. Number 1 of our wide receiver lists here. How do you feel about them? What did we get right? What did we get wrong? Who is your favorite NFL wide receiver to watch? And maybe if you want to go with someone overrated, underrated, you could do that. Talking wideouts on Justin Jefferson got paid day on Grant and Danny. Welcome back. I don't know what's happening.
I don't either.
I just keep talking and I'm not on the air for some reason.
Now you are, I think.
Am I on the air?
You're on the air. I'm just a stupid and forgot to put your fader up.
You don't have the
So I
voice.
apologize for being a stupid.
No, don't be a
No,
stupid.
now we feel
I thought
bad.
I did something. Now I feel bad.
Now we never know. Like sometimes the blue light's on.
Exactly.
Is it me? Did I touch the wrong
I just
thing?
kept talking and I never turned my mic on. So I'm like, oh, I forgot to turn my mic on. But then my mic was on. And then I was like, okay, well, my light's telling me the mic's on, but the mic's not on. And I just kept looking at Danny and I'm like, okay, my headphones just aren't letting me hear myself.
And I'm like, now do I do it while we work out Grant's thing? But I don't know. So I stared. I've done that before.
You guys,
when there's a problem, I just stare.
Also, I said so much smart stuff. You guys missed the best I had for today's show right then.
3 of the top 17 points ever made on radio. Probably. Top of my head. I mean.
And I'm not doing it again, for the record. I did it once.
Yeah, it's a one-off.
And I will not do it again, so you guys just missed it, unfortunately for you. But with that, welcome back to Grant and Danny here on The Fan. We're going to go blitzing at 4. That's when we've got those tickets for the barbecue battle in 30 minutes. And at 5 o'clock, we'll be joined by our buddy Ben Standig. Want to talk about the Commanders' decision to cut Brandon McManus with him. 6 o'clock, right here on G&D on The Fan. We are going to be giving away tickets to see Nicki Minaj at Capital One Arena. Pretty good prize.
Pretty good.
She's got fans. There are people that will be at that show trying to get tickets outside the building. You're going to walk right past those people. You're going to go, I got the good seats. Thank you.
Give him a swim move.
I'm a Grant and Danny listener. You should be too.
Get that push to rip kind of move underneath. Yeah.
We were just talking NFL wide receivers, who the top 5 was based on Justin Jefferson getting paid. We both have him number 1. We both have Tyreek Hill number 2. And then my 3 through 5 varies from Danny's just a little bit, where I went CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and A.J. Brown.
I got Jamar Chase 3, Devontae Adams still in my top 5. I can't quit him. And CeeDee Lamb at 5.
How old is Devontae Adams?
I think 31 or 32.
So if he's 32, I feel a lot better about not having him in my top 5. He will be 32 this football season. He just doesn't quite look to be at the level he was in Green Bay. And I don't know, is that because you're not with Rodgers and now you're with the ghost of Derek Carr, and this past year, even worse than that? I'm not really sure. It's not like he's been bad. He had a 1,500-yard season when he got with his boy Carr in 2022 in Vegas. But his best was a couple of like 1,400 plus, which is not a whole lot to sneeze at. Some of the guys on this list have just routinely strung those together. But I still feel bad about not having him on there because I think he's a technician. He's a pro.
I'm such a fan. I mean, so a couple other guys that you could think about including, someone like Keenan Allen, who I think never gets enough credit, would probably just miss, maybe a 5 or 6 or 7 list like that. Puka Nacua, burst onto the scene last year, was unbelievable.
Too early for him. I'll give you the guy that I thought about more than I should have probably. Again, this is my speed. This is what I love. You're in the slot. You make a million catches. You're hard to cover. I'm a big Amon-Ra St. Brown guy. Now, I think top 5 is a little too bullish, okay? Don't have him in my top 5.
He's in my 10,
reason.
though.
He's definitely a top 10 receiver in the league.
Mike Evans, just big and catches touchdowns.
So he's a tough one because Mike Evans is the ultimate PGA golfer. And what I mean by that is nobody makes what he does really well look easier than Mike Evans. It's just the kind of slowly get down the field at my pace, run my square in, run my post, my dig, box you out with my big body, make my catch. He's been the same guy every single year. His entire career, right between 1,000 and 1,200 yards, normally between 1,000 and 1,100 yards. And he's always been right around 14 yards per catch. The model of consistency, he is the epitome of, like, it's not sexy. There aren't really spikes. It's funny because if you look at his game logs most years, there's a lot of like 2-catch, 26-yard games.
Oh, yeah.
If you have him in fantasy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. 4 catches for 51 yards, 2 catches for 23 yards. But then he's got like 7 for 125, 8 for 143. And by the end of the year, it's 75 for a 1090 or whatever. So I don't have him in the top 5. I definitely think when you do what he did, he's the first receiver in league history, isn't he? To go 10 straight years with 1,000 yards.
That's right.
He's got to be in the back end of the top 10, though, probably. And above the tier of the really good, like the Terry McLaurins, those kind of guys that are in the top 15, maybe.
That's right. I mean, and then there's other guys that are similar like that. It's hard to quantify. DK Metcalf, for example. I mean, what a deep threat. What a stud. I'd love to have him. But is he better than, some of the guys we're talking about, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, who we haven't mentioned yet, or Deebo Samuel was such a weapon. You know what I mean? It's, again, we are in the age of the offensive playmaker on the outside.
This is the greatest receiver era ever, isn't it?
I think so.
Also, every year in the draft now, if you notice, every year is a great year for wide receivers.
Yep.
Like, that's happening more and more. But that should be a little bit of an argument to not pay massive money. I think, like running back, when you get a guy that's special, you still break the bank for sure. But I don't know that you could pay the really good wide receiver elite level money because it's getting increasingly easy. Probably not the right word. It's certainly getting more prevalent that you can go to the draft in rounds 2, 3, and 4 and find impact. When there's 10, 12, 15 receivers everybody loves in a lot of these classes, where do all those guys go? They're not all going to hit. It won't all pan out. But if 7 to 10 every single year join the league and become 1,000-yard type receivers, then, paying someone to go 65 for 1,000 probably is not as important as it was.
Yeah, I mean, the money is there. I mean, I think Field Yates pointed this out. 5 of the top 8 salaried players that are not quarterbacks. Did everybody follow that? So it's like Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, one other person I can't remember, and then 5 wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase, both in our 5s, they're both about to get paid too. So it's going to be, 7 out of the top 10, maybe 6 out of the top 8, 7 out of the top 8. I don't know. They're going to supersede some of these previous salaries. This is the era of the receiver. The draft picks that you just mentioned, the huge salaries, the league is yelling at you. We care a lot about receiver. It's quarterback 1. It used to be the left tackle 2. I think receiver has jumped to number 2, like that elite playmaker.
When you point out the Field Yates stat of 5 of the top 8 non-QBs in money right now are wideouts,
mm-hmm.
That means the league thinks that receiver is the second most important position.
That's what it tells you. Right?
And
there's 2 more guys who are about to join it.
And it makes it a little more curious that Washington decided basically Luke McCaffrey was going to be the big splash at wide receiver this offseason, not to knock him. But if you're in our camp of add weapons as often as possible, and if you have 5, you need 6, and if you have 6, you need 7, they're not quite all the way in maybe on the necessity for receiver, which doesn't shock me because, like, Adam Peters comes from San Fran where Kyle Shanahan can make a good receiver great and a great receiver a Hall of Famer. And maybe he believes in scheme elevating, play calling elevating, and he thinks Kingsbury can do that with Jahan Dotson or Luke McCaffrey. Or let's go find good fits, and those guys will be great players. That's one philosophy. The other is throw resources at this position and go get as many studs as possible.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a practical approach. I mean, think Tampa Bay Rays playing Moneyball style, where if you don't want to pay Tyreek Hill $30 million a year, or I almost call him Thomas Jefferson, I'm sure. One of the founders of the country is also a receiver.
Do you know how funny it would be if Thomas Jefferson was currently an NFL
was a great
receiver?
Route runner.
Like how old would he be?
Couple hundred.
I mean,
more than that, 250, 270.
There's no way he's taking the lid off of a defense.
Dude, he lacks short area quickness at this stage.
I don't think Thomas Jefferson is going to make anybody miss.
Is Thomas Jefferson getting off press coverage? Probably not.
I don't think he's beating bump coverage.
I'm going to say Justin Jefferson. But if you don't want to pay somebody $34, $35 million, it makes sense to have the good receiving core. It makes sense to draft one of those guys or a bunch of those guys and throw it at the problem. And my issue, and again, everyone's going to be sick of me saying this, Washington did neither. Their first investment is a round 3 wide receiver that I hope is good and like Alameda Zacchaeus. Like everybody else went, Chicago was like, oh, we can give up what for Keenan Allen? Yes. We also are going to draft one of the top 10. Everybody wants in, and Washington's like, we're good. I never liked that.
Thomas Jefferson today would be 278 years old. So whereas you want your receivers to run like a 4.2 plus or a 4.3, he'd run a 43. I think he would like at 278.
Yeah.
With his walker like being helped, maybe a 43. Maybe
not even
43 minute 40.
I mean, at best,
I just wouldn't draft him.
He's an undraftable player at this point.
I'm going to say this, and I know this is controversial here in America.
Dude, I wouldn't do this.
I'm taking Thomas Jefferson off my draft board as a wide receiver. He's 278.
Just as a wideout.
278.
278 stuff.
That's old, man.
That's tough.
Who's the oldest receiver in the league that's had a lot of success? Jerry Rice in his early 40s? You think about it like this. Jerry Rice was, I think, 42 when he had his year where he made some catches for the Seahawks. Jerry Rice was 236 years younger
than Thomas Jefferson. That's the point of comparison.
Right here. I mean, that's a big gap.
That's a big
So,
gap.
yes, Jerry Rice at 42, greatest receiver ever, could make some
He's
catches.
a better player than Thomas Jefferson. That's okay to say.
Thomas Jefferson at 278? 236 years older?
Now, you should have seen Thomas Jefferson during the age of enlightenment running routes at age like 31, 32.
They took a break from writing the Declaration of Independence, and he was out there just shaking dudes. I remember he went up the ladder one time. I saw this on a 30 for 30.
You did.
And that white.
You saw it?
Yeah. The white. They had a video of it.
Did they?
A dude had an iPhone. He had his iPhone. It wasn't a great video. It was grainy.
It was that phone
It
one.
was the first iPhone.
The first one, yeah.
The iPhone, like
first non-flip phone.
negative 93. But the white wig that they always wear, like, fell right off when he went up the ladder to make the catch. And he could go get it.
He was shaking Alexander Hamilton. Easy for me to say. I can't even do bits.
Chavelle's in cold.
Good Lord.
Pepper. What's up, Chavelle?
Hey guys, how you doing, man?
Good, buddy.
Chilling.
Hey, I really don't have an issue with with your picks. I believe Cooper Kupp is really underrated. And Danny, I'm with you. Keenan Allen, non-Redskin or Commander, he's my favorite player.
I love him.
And I love watching Keenan Allen. I think that's a product of fantasy over the past several years.
Agree with that. Yeah.
And my question to you guys is, with the contract Justin Jefferson signed today, I read something earlier when I put their stats up beside each other. CeeDee Lamb stats are almost identical, and he even has better stats in some categories than Justin Jefferson. And I don't think a lot of people understand that. And Justin Jefferson, I believe, was a product of Kirk Cousins being an underrated quarterback by a lot of prognosticators in the league, because I really feel that Kirk made Justin Jefferson, not made him, but he helped him and with the numbers and the stats that he put up. But my question to you guys is, with this situation with Jerry Jones and this contract being signed today, do you feel that Jerry Jones is going to pay CeeDee Lamb anywhere close to what Justin Jefferson got? And if not, is that going to be like a franchise tag for a year or maybe two?
I think so.
CeeDee Lamb.
Here's the problem. Here's the good call.
Thanks, Chevelle.
It's a great question. How do you pay that contract to CeeDee Lamb and pay Dak and Micah Parsons? I don't think you could do that. I think that then takes up, like, I'm just making up a number, but like we're talking about 40% of your
third of your
salary
cap or more, yeah,
on three players. If you're saying you're going to pay Dak at the top of the quarterback market, $50+ million a year, that's what it takes to get him. If you're going to pay Micah Parsons the top of the edge market, which is the other of the big three here, it's getting sacks, catching passes and throwing to passes. Those are the three guys that get paid. And the reason they did nothing this offseason was to try to position themselves to pay all three of these guys. I just don't see how they can. So the same way I was thinking with Minnesota rebuilding, maybe they just view Jefferson as a 3-year deal. They got him this year and then 2 tags. Maybe the Cowboys do the same with CD, where they go, we've got the rookie deal, we have 2 tags, and then at that point, he's upwards of, closing in
He'll
on.
be 26 at the end of that. So 25. Maybe he's 27,
He's
28.
only 24 now?
Yeah, he's 24 now.
Well, that's insane.
Came in the league at 21.
Because like Jefferson would be like 3 years older than that at the end of all that. So CD came in really young, I guess. But the point is, I think you just buy into we're getting him for these prime years, unless you decide that you're not going to pay Dak. The reason they were able to give this deal to Jefferson, this was basically Cousins' contract that they just gave him,
right?
Essentially. Like mid-30s million a year is what Kirk Cousins had been making. And now he wanted, 40, 45 or whatever. But this is what you would pay a quarterback money. You don't have to do that because you just drafted J.J. McCarthy and you have Sam Darnold making pennies. So you can pay the quarterback contract to a receiver. Well, how do the Cowboys do both?
So I think they do that and then hope that a whole bunch of very underpriced guys fill out the roster. I think they can't bear to let the star go.
I think it's really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
Double play is next. Darius has told us he wants to complain about grocery stores. We don't really know what about grocery stores, but he's very angry at grocery stores. And he texted us yesterday to ask for some anger time on the double play. That's next on G&D. Grant and Danny on the Fan. It is time for our double play. What's going on in our lives? Nothing to do with sports. Driven to you by your local Washington area Honda dealer. Stopping for a great deal on the rugged and capable Honda Pilot. Contact your local Washington area Honda dealers today.
Don't mess up around these parts. I'll tell you that right now. In fact, what I might do is give everybody the silent treatment and demand apologies over months and months and months and months and months. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes. Time for my little teeny tiny double play. The most important thing that happened this weekend to the Rouillet boys, I told you guys about this a little bit before the show. We had an end of season kind of mutiny from both kids on different days for different games. And I don't think I handled it real well.
Oh, no.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I think everyone was mad at me, even though I didn't do it. I didn't do the melting down. I didn't do the quitting or the pouting or the tantrums or kind of whatever. But it's the kind of thing I just can't handle. I don't care if you swing and miss. I don't care if you try to kick the ball and it goes out of bounds or you commit a foul or something. Doesn't bother me. It's the pouting and the stuff, especially when I was coaching. That makes it extra hard because I don't have time to do a Danny Tanner moment here. You know what I mean? Like we got a game going. There's 12 other kids. They're all trying to put them in their spots and different stuff like that. This was not our best weekend.
I'll sneak in my quick double play. What is your philosophy on bringing your own candy to a movie? Like sneaking it into the theater?
I'm too afraid to do it. Too much of a rule follower.
Same. I just can't allow myself, but it's such a waste of money.
Yeah.
So I take the kids to about a movie a month. Normally there's a new kids movie out. Took them to see Garfield on Saturday. We get there, and the whole way there, my son's saying he wants Sour Patch Kids. My daughter wants Skittles. And I'm like, guys, we're going to pick one snack, and they can't agree. I say we'll get Skittles. The other one cries. I say we'll get Sour Patch. The other one cries. And I should just sack up, get one snack, tell them to kick rocks, and be done with it.
But it's the piece.
And
That's what we all want.
do that,
That's all we want.
But also, at the same time, this is daddy taking you out. It's your big fun activity. It's Dadder Day. Like, we're going to go have a good time. So we're having a good time. Let's. I work hard. We can get 2 snacks, right? But my point is, I always want to stop at the gas station on the way there, go in, grab what I know they want, just put it in my pocket and walk into the theater. But for some reason, you would think it's like a legitimate
like
crime.
I'm breaking into Fort Knox.
Exactly.
Like I'm in Ocean's 12 stealing the Fabergé egg.
I just can't break through the barrier in my mind of letting myself do it.
Is someone going to pat me down? Is someone going to do something? Now, here's the other part of this. With the kids, they would know that it's not the same candy that is at the movie. They only want the movie theater candy. You know what I'm saying?
My kids don't care.
They wouldn't care.
If I brought them from the house and said, here's our candy, and they're like, oh, okay, cool. They really don't care. They like the idea of seeing it. It's fun and picking it out or whatever, but they could do that at 7-Eleven. You know, see what I'm saying?
I know what you mean.
But also, like, it's just as criminal that I'm paying $9 for this little pack of Skittles than it would be for me to walk it into the theater. Like, I can make that make sense in my head.
It makes sense
You're
to me.
screwing me over. I'm screwing you over. Let's screw each other over together.
Like, what would happen? Would someone
I mean, the person tearing the tickets is 17. You would say, oh, you can't bring that in here. And I would go, oh, I didn't even realize I had it on me. And I would toss it on the table and be embarrassed and walk in. That's it. But it's just.
What about that shame?
I wouldn't feel.
You wouldn't feel shame?
I'm not. I think you're missing it. I'm not worried about getting caught at all.
I am.
It's the mental, the good versus bad, where I need to rework my wires to go, this is not that bad. They're trying to charge me a crazy amount of money for something that they shouldn't. I'm just going to bring in some candy. By the way, you're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
Darius just found, he just told me this. He found a highlight of Thomas Jefferson playing football.
Here we go.
I told you they had a league.
Yep.
When they were doing the Declaration of Independence, it was I think it was called the Declaration of Independence League, the DIL. And in the DIL, Jefferson was the leading receiver one year at 452 yards. They didn't throw it a lot.
They changed a lot of rules later with the Bill of Rights.
And they ran the football a lot. But this is serious. I'm not. You guys think I'm doing a bit. Derek found a highlight, and we're going to play it for you.
Cousins taking a deep shot for Jefferson. Great adjustment and the catch. What a play by Thomas Jefferson.
Dude, he went up the ladder and made that catch.
Made that play.
I wonder who Cousins was at quarterback. Must have been one of Kirk's relatives.
And a couple of grandfathers removed there.
How about Spiro Dietis' great-great-grandfather there on the call?
Somebody who sounded just like Spiro on the call. But yeah, so that is
Alistair Dides, yeah.
Thomas Jefferson went up and got it. Silly.
Jefferson.
I love it. Well done, Darius. We'll have to hear why you hate grocery stores a little bit later on.
Sorry, Darius.
But just know that I'm glad that you worked so hard to find that highlight. That was very, very good. I knew it was in their system somewhere. We just had to
Thomas
unearth
Jefferson.
it. Beltway Blitz is next. We're giving away a 4-pack of tickets to the barbecue battle on Grant and Danny.
Cousins taking a deep shot for Jefferson. Great adjustment and the catch. What a play by Thomas Jefferson.
in Murrah. They'll provide legal services in estate planning, elder law, probate, admin. Schedule your free consultation with their Fairfax-based attorneys. Visit kmlawyers.com. Mention our show. They'll give you a discount. kmlawyers.com. As promised, right now, caller 10 at 800-636-1067. You are going to win a 4-pack of tickets. Congrats. You're going to the 32nd annual Giant Barbecue Battle, June 22nd and 23rd on historic Pennsylvania Avenue. It's family fun for everyone. With over 100 free food and drink samples, giant corks to caps, tasting tent, Monster Energy Extreme Sports, live music on Pepsi Taste, summer stage. Visit thefandc.com/events right now to get more details. We're going to give away tickets at 4 ahead of the Blitz all week long. We also have tickets this week to see Nicki Minaj at Capital One Arena. You can win those tickets in 2 hours at 6. Make sure you're listening right here on The Fan. Let's get to our Beltway Blitz. We start off on the diamond with our buddy Craig Heist, covers the Nats for us at 106.7 The Fan. Heisty, the Nationals dropped 2 out of 3 in Cleveland to a really good Guardians team. They were basically a misplayed pop fly away from taking the series, though. They lost a tight game on Saturday. Jake Irvin threw well, and they got the win on Sunday. What did you make of the 3 games?
Well, I mean, let's face it, Guardians came in and had won until the Nationals took that game yesterday. They had won 9 straight at home. They're a good ball club, playing good baseball. I thought the Nationals went in there and played them very tough. And like you said, a play here and there, and that could have been a 2 out of 3 for the Nationals after taking 3 or 4 in Atlanta. And that, to me, was, the bigger thing for this team, even though they did lose the series in Cleveland. They took 3 out of 4 from a division winner, or division foe, and a team that's been obviously the class of this division for a long time.
Hi, Steve. What's going on with C.J. Abrams?
He's day-to-day shoulder injury. He's not in the lineup tonight. Lane Thomas will play center field. So we'll just have to wait and see. Davey Martinez, a little late getting to his press conference. It was supposed to be around 3:40, but he is yet to come in the room. So we'll see what he has to say, and I'm sure he'll be asked about it. But right now he's just listed as day-to-day.
Yeah, well, it's a third straight day then where he's not going to play, where we know they'd said he banged up his shoulder. I mean, at what point should the antenna go up and we should be a little more nervous about this?
Well, I would think if you get into it where it's another day or two, you might have to think about ILing him and then make it retroactive. And I'm sure they're getting the best medical information that they can get on it. But right now he's down and not playing tonight. I'm assuming he's available to come off, as a pinch hitter, but we'll see.
Do you feel like Gabriel Ruiz has sort of turned the corner here offensively? It looks to be a little bit more comfortable of late.
I think so. And I think, having lost 20 pounds when he was sick and getting his strength back, and I think he looks a little bit better behind the plate too. But everybody's waiting for the bat to come around, Danny. And I think that really kind of started on the last homestand. I thought we had him as a guest on one of the post-game interviews coming off the field on a game that the Nats won, which he had a part in. So I think he's swinging the bat a lot better. Now you just want to hope the consistency is going to be there. And, of course, with Millis now up and Riley Adams being sent down, I think that we'll see and get a chance to see Millis, who everybody likes the fact that he's a little bit leaner than both Ruiz and Riley. But the other part about it is offensively, I think he's going to provide some punch. And of the 3 of them, he certainly runs the bases better than all 3 of them.
Yeah, he'll fit in well in D.C. in that regard. He stole 5 bases in the minors this season to go along with his 5 home runs, at an .858 OPS and an average over 300 at AAA Rochester. Former 7th-round pick who's now 26 and frankly just deserves a chance at the big league level. So we'll get a look at him. Speaking of bats that have come around.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, Grant. I was going to say he is. And with Lane going down, what they're do besides having him catch too, but they're also going to work him out and get him in some games at first base. And they want him to play a good bit of first base while he's down there as well.
Yeah, that's good to know. I mean, because they're going to need a first baseman if they move on from Meneses or Gallo at some point. What about Senzel, Heisty?
Right.
He is hot right now. 8 for his last 19 this week, hitting over 420. I think he's like 10 for his last 20 if you extrapolate it out a little more. He's actually sneaky, got a 780 OPS for the season. There have been several times where I was ready to just move on and give Lipscomb that gig, but he's getting hot right now and kind of forcing their hand to keep giving him chances.
Well, that's what you need. I mean, if you're going to be a successful team, Grant, and if we found out nothing from 2019, it's that guys are going to be hot. They're going to be cold. You want consistency. And right now he is hot. But the other part about it too is the bottom line of anything that we learned from that year is that you are going to need everybody, 1 through the 26 that are here, but that entire 40-man roster is going to make a contribution at some point during the year.
How is Jake Irvin doing this, Heisty? He's been unbelievable.
Yeah, he really has. I just think it's confidence in terms of being able to control the strike zone, throw strikes, get ahead of hitters. And, he shows, to me, Danny, he shows a lot of poise. And what I mean by that is he's not afraid of anything. I mean, he gets himself in trouble, he's still going to go after hitters. And I think that's been a lot of his success. You see it with him. You certainly see it with McKenzie, who pitches tonight. And it'll be interesting to see how, he's 4-4, but his ERA is 2.91. And, again, he hasn't pitched in the best of luck. But all of these guys in this starting rotation, I think you couldn't ask for anything more. If you were going to go into the season and say to yourself that this starting rotation was going to pitch as well as it has, I don't think many people would have given you much of a shot at that. But this team has stayed in games, and they're 4 under 500 coming into the night. And right now, I think a lot of it's due to the starting pitching because we know that this team isn't going to score a bunch of runs. And the games that they do score a lot of runs, they're doing a pretty good job manufacturing runs. So that helps the pitching staff out as well. But I think overall, just the entire pitching staff, straight on down the line, especially the starters, you got to give them a lot of credit for doing what they're doing.
Heisty, thank you, buddy. We'll see you at the ballpark.
All right, man. Take care.
Be good, bro. Let's talk some football. And to spin us around the NFL, USA Today's Nate Davis on our Beltway Blitz. Nate, somber note here to start, but I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it today. A legendary lineman, Hall of Famer from the Cowboys, Larry Allen, passed away over the weekend. Sounds like vacationing with his family in Mexico from natural causes yesterday. For our young audience that didn't watch him play, just how good a player was Larry Allen?
Yeah, Larry Allen is only 52. Amazing player. I mean, he played on the Cowboys Super Bowl 30 team, rookie in '94. But in his heyday, I mean, the team known for Deion Sanders and Aikman and Emmett and Michael Irvin, you could argue that he was the best player on that team. Just dominated his position, 6-time All-Pro. Could bench 700 pounds. There's a good clip if you check out YouTube or Twitter or whatever. Of him running down a linebacker on an interception return, 335 pounds. So just an amazing athlete and probably about the last guy you wanted to see coming around on a sweep at you.
Nate, more trivial matters. Payday here for Justin Jefferson. A couple other receivers, CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase, are going to have their hands out as well. That's 5 of the top 8 non-quarterback salaries or wideouts. 2 more guys are probably going to join that list right up there at the top. The NFL is sending a pretty clear message that these playmakers on the outside are pretty important, huh?
Yeah, it is, and I think Jefferson has probably set that market. I don't know that CeeDee Lamb. I think he'll probably come in number 2. I mean, he may get over it. Obviously, his team has a lot of other contract stuff to figure out with Dak Prescott and Micah Parsons, whether it be now or next year for him. But yeah, I mean that wide receiver position has kind of established itself as the number 2 compensation position in recent years. Defensive tackle and edge rusher are still going to be right there, but there's a lot more guys. Yeah, we're looking at. Well, you mentioned some of them, and we got more quarterbacks to go here with Tua and Trevor Lawrence and others. But I think probably going to see some more money doled out here before the season starts.
Is there any way that Tua wouldn't get paid? I mean, Lawrence is inevitably going to get his from Jacksonville. Is there any chance that Tua and the Dolphins end up going their separate ways?
I think probably not. I mean, they've still got a tag option on him if they don't get anything done. I mean, all of his draft mates, Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, got paid last year. So
just to be clear, I mean that they could tag him like the Cousins thing, where they keep him around on the tag for a couple of years, but just no long-term deal.
They could, but I mean, I think everything they've done kind of signals that they're setting things up for him. You know, getting Jalen Waddle done. You know, deciding to allocate that cap room by not keeping Christian Wilkins. You know, I know he's got the injury history. They haven't won any playoff games, but I think he and Mike McDaniel have kind of clicked and have a good thing going there. So I don't think the two is getting out of there at least the next couple of years. And I would assume that the contract, given the way the cap keeps going up, I mean, I think teams are kind of running a risk by not getting some of these things done sooner as opposed to waiting for it to continue to balloon down the road. That's the salary cap, that is.
Nate, can you get folks up to speed on what the NFLPA wants to do with the offseason and where that might lead us?
Yeah, I think they're kind of looking around the corners and trying to decide, you know, what how might we start approach negotiations and look at an 18-game season, which I think everybody kind of generally agrees that will happen eventually, whether it's sooner, whether it's later. I don't think necessarily we're going to have to wait for the next CBA in 2030. I think it could happen before that, but you know, I think some of the trade-off for players that they're kind of looking at is how do we structure the off season. And, you know, we kind of saw during COVID that you don't necessarily need a preseason, that long, you know, week, 2 week, whatever ramp up into training camp is helpful. It kind of gets guys where they need to be. And maybe that means, you know, we don't need OTAs. We don't need all this stuff in April and May. And maybe we're willing to, you know, give up a little bit more time, you know, after the 4th of July, maybe even before the 4th of July, to come in during the summer, but, you know, give us our full spring off, give us, you know, 3-4 months of just recharging, doing whatever we want to do, and not kind of interrupting it with all the quote unquote voluntary stuff, mini camps and that kind of thing.
Nate, thank you. We appreciate you, buddy.
Okay, guys.
Be good. Let's keep the blitz going. Localize the football convo on the Commanders with Nick Ackridge of PFF. Nick, why don't we start with the decision to cut Brandon McManus? Surprised to see that the Commanders moved on from him as quickly as they did, and what do you think could be coming down the pike next?
Yeah, I wasn't too surprised. You know, maybe if we were talking about a different position, it would have taken a bit longer. But you know, when you're dealing with kicker, it's kind of tough to have any sort of distractions with that position. So probably best to just kind of err on the side of caution there and move on. And for me, I'd be looking at someone from the UFL. I mean, they've got guys there that are hitting 50, 60-yard kicks. So might as well give them a shot and see how that goes. It worked out pretty well for the Cowboys last year.
Nick, I'm using every window and every excuse I can to beat this drum, and I'm sure fans are sick of it already, let alone, you know, the season hasn't started yet. We still got months to go. With Justin Jefferson getting paid, with the draft just happening, where so many receivers went so high, and it's clearly a position of huge, huge value and import to a lot of people, I don't think Washington did enough. I think they have a hole there, and it depends on, you know, how good Jahan Dotson is, rather, and you know, maybe third-round pick Luke McCaffrey is the answer long-term, and you find another Terry McLaurin. But to me, they had an opportunity to go out this offseason and really improve that spot for a young quarterback, and they didn't do it. I think it's a mistake. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think your point there with Jahan Dotson is kind of the key there. I think if he takes a massive step back to where he was as a rookie, then I don't think it's that much of an issue. But you know, if he played like he did last year, then yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a problem. You're expecting a lot out of a third-round rookie, and it's a position that where you just need bodies, and right now they don't really have that. They obviously have Terry, who's a number one wide receiver in the NFL, but yeah, you're expecting Jahan Dotson to kind of make that jump back to where he was as a rookie, and if he does that, then they're looking pretty good. But you know, I kind of agree with you that I wish they did a little bit more just to kind of shore some things up, so you're not kind of hoping as much.
Nick, how do you guys at PFF feel about the line that Washington has put together in your projections? Left to right, Lucas, Allegretti, Biotish, Cosme, and Wiley. Only Sam Cosme among those guys has really played at a standout level. Biotish has been fine, but how do you feel overall?
Yeah, we've kind of been a bit higher on the offensive line than most fans have. I kind of went back and forth with fans a lot throughout the year, you know, talking about, you know, Andrew Wiley and even Charles Leno when he was here last year, that, they weren't playing fantastic, but they weren't playing as terrible as it seemed. And a lot of that had to do with the quarterback. And we're seeing a lot now, and a lot more fans are kind of coming aware of the fact that, pressures is, really derived from how the quarterback plays. And a quarterback can kind of over exaggerate how bad an offensive line is. So for me, I think they're fine. I don't think there's, like you said, anyone other than Sam Cosmi is really going to stand out too much, but I think that they are good enough to kind of hold up for Jaden Daniels. And I think when you're looking at an offensive line, you're looking at a unit that's a weak link unit. So, you're just trying to shore up that weakest spot. And last year it was that left guard and center role. So I liked what they did there. And I think that, the tackles are just good enough right now. And for me, that's okay.
How's the defensive end rotation going to work in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. It's a weird question coming off of, what it looked like last year when you knew exactly what you were going to get. But, I think obviously you're going to have the guys that came over from the Cowboys that are, they're very familiar with the scheme. And I think you'll see a lot of them. But then there's a lot of snaps that are up for grabs. And I think it's, some people are going to have to step up and really kind of stake claim to that. And like I said, right now there's a lot up in the air that you can kind of really, really kind of grab for.
Nick, thank you as always. Good info. We appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks, guys. You have a good one.
See you,
You too, brother. There is your Beltway Blitz on Grant and Danny. Caitlin Clark is the most known women's basketball player in history. She's now bringing a new energy and excitement to the WNBA product that wasn't there before from a lot of fans who are watching her games. But fascinatingly, it seems like many WNBA players are not happy about that. We're going to discuss that next on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. Jaden Daniels is going to throw out the first pitch at Nats Park on Sunday. I'm excited for that. Big moment for the kid. I mean, look, you throw a good pitch, it helps you in that people are like, oh, he's super athletic. He can throw a baseball. Throw a bad pitch. I don't think it's really that big of a deal. You just can't throw the virally bad pitch.
You're a professional thrower of a ball, so you'd like to think you want to avoid the really bad John Wall level pitch of that one Mayer that threw it into the dugout, you know?
But whoa, you know this. You played college ball at the Ohio State University, right? Is that the one?
That's the one.
Okay.
Yeah. The Revolutionaries.
Exactly. The Blue Fog. You know that throwing a football and throwing a baseball couldn't be any different.
Oh, it's totally different. Totally different.
So because he's a quarterback doesn't mean he's just going to walk out there and throw a strike.
You know that, and I know that. But the dude in section 224 may not know that. My point is, when you throw a ball professionally, everybody sort of thinks it's generally the same kind of thing. If you're virally bad, the memes will write themselves. You'll be the internet's fodder for a day.
Totally. Worst first pitch you've ever seen. Top of your head for the viral clips.
Who was the lady that threw it straight down?
I don't know.
Remember that one? I feel like it was in Tampa Bay. She tried to throw it, like it held on too tight, and she literally threw it into it landed on the pitcher's mound.
No way.
It's like when you're in the tee box and you're trying to hit a nuke and it rolls
I feel
a foot
like
and a half.
Mariah Carey had a bad one.
I think so.
Maybe it was her. Ryan might have found something.
It was Carly Rae Jepsen.
The one I'm talking about?
Yes, the one that you're talking about.
Spiked it straight down, like Gronkowski level spike.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was bad.
That's pretty good. I distinctly remember 50 Cent at all times. Whenever I'm thinking worst case scenario for a first pitch, rapper 50 Cent going out there, towing the rubber, and he like threw one so wide it like hit a dude in the junk that was trying to take pictures like 30 feet from home plate. That one's tough to come back from. But I think Jaden Daniels, I don't think he's going to throw 77 on the black or something. You just go out there. You got to climb up the hill. Make sure you go from the rubber.
You got to go on the bump.
That would be the only thing that could disappoint me. You throw a bad pitch, I don't care. You throw a pitch that bounces twice to get to home plate, I don't care. Don't go from the grass in front of the mound. I need to know that you're a competitor, right? This is my pre-draft test. I need to know that you revel the moment. You're going to climb that hill. You're going to go from the rubber. You're going to do it the right way. Let the chips fall where they may.
I wonder, like, unless they don't allow you to, but 99% of the time they let you go from wherever you want when you're throwing it, you know? The thing that I want ultimately, like, would you be a little bit steamed up if he did like a Ichiro kind of a bit where he humped it up and threw like 88?
Oh my God. That would be amazing.
Like, wouldn't that be awesome if he told the guy, like, hey, dude, listen, I'm going to bring it.
Oh, if he goes out there and he just throws a dart, right? Yeah, that's my quarterback.
I think I'd be a little horned up. Like Nolan Ryan, mid-80s, like at age 60-something, like in a suit, just barely loose, just throwing cheddar.
That's my quarterback. Yes, I'd be so happy. So Sunday, you're going to the Nats game. Get to your seat early. Jaden Daniels' first pitch season. All right, let's talk Caitlin Clark. Welcome you back, Grant and Danny, here on The Fan. You guys have seen this inevitably. This was trending all over the place on Saturday and Sunday. Caitlin Clark has been getting defended physically, as you'd expect as a rookie in the WNBA. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're going to get fouled hard. You're going to get welcomed to the sport. There are veterans that are tired of reading your press clippings. That's not new. That's a tale as old as time. In every sport, in every league, at every level, when you level up to become a pro now from the amateur side, we're going to test your mettle a little bit.
Welcome to the league, Rook. That's the thing. You got to sing your school fight song. You got to embarrass yourself. You got to take one extra check. You got to deal with it.
But I have thought it was weird that she is catching a lot of like verbal hate, disdain from players in the WNBA. She is bringing more attention right now to the WNBA than there's ever been before. I watched Iowa LSU women's basketball the last couple of years. I never watched a college women's basketball game. Doesn't mean I'm anti-watching it or against it. I just haven't had the interest until I saw that Caitlin Clark was Steph Curry and she's got this feud with Angel Reese and they're going to be playing and what's going to happen. And like a 24/7 build up on HBO to a boxing match, it sucked me in. And I found myself in the middle of the afternoon watching women's college basketball. So many of us are in that boat. Similarly, Danny, I haven't checked the WNBA box score since I was a kid, and Shamiqua Holdsclaw was playing for the Mystics. I got steamed up for the Mystics as a young kid and Shamiqua Holdsclaw, okay? Since about then, I have not cared who won, who lost, how many points were scored. I find myself most nights, if I see that she played, just going, oh, I wonder how she did tonight. And I look up the numbers. Haven't really watched much of the games, but I will look it up. I'm more interested in the WNBA and in women's basketball in general because of Caitlin Clark. And I think there are a lot of people around the country you could say that about.
Yeah, the numbers dictate that. Sorry.
By the way, the TV numbers are astronomical
Yes.
for the women's college game in the tournament the last couple of years with her as the centerpiece compared to before. And even on television, the WNBA numbers have grown, and the league financially is going to benefit. It's going to grow. They're now on chartered flights for the first time instead of flying commercial. Like, this is all good. The rising tide theoretically is going to lift every boat.
And again, there is a difference, and I'm not here to tell you to break down the Indiana Fever or what sets they're running or what plays they should be doing or not doing or any of these games. We're talking about something bigger than just the normal. I'd like to prove that this league is tougher than you think it is, right? I'd like to prove that you're not just going to walk in here and average 40 a game, having just set the NCAA scoring record and make it challenging for you. That's competitive sports. That's basketball. That's sports at the highest level. You're going to see that the same way a guy sacks a quarterback and goes, Heisman Trophy winning my whatever. You know what I mean? Like
it does the Heisman pose for the rookie quarterback. Welcome to the league.
Trash talk.
But I will say, like, the comp for me is Victor Wembanyama, who's the most hyped prospect since LeBron James, who went 1-1 this past year in the NBA. And he was mostly greeted with photo ops at midcourt and jersey swaps. There might have been a player or two that were like, hey, he's going to find out it's harder up here. Good luck to him. He's going to have to bang down low with the big boys or whatever. He's going to get fouled hard occasionally. I don't have a problem with any of that. Just like in the women's game, I don't think it's crazy if you test Caitlin Clark's mettle a little bit and she gets treated a little differently or fouled or whatever. That's all part of it. But some of the banter and the discussion was clear that there was an animus toward her from some of the legends in the sport before she ever played. And I didn't understand that. Like, she's helping the sport. Everyone's theoretically going to benefit from her being there. But there was an anger, like from, what's her name from UConn? Who Sue Bird's buddy, Diana Taurasi. Taurasi was like making comments and others that were like multi-time MVPs in the WNBA were making comments about how, yeah, it's one thing to do it at Iowa. We'll see what she does. That kind of thing's fine. But they were pushing the envelope a little bit on like where I was going, this is so weird. This energy toward her is very strange. And it has not stopped. It is only being elevated. The reason we're talking about this today is there is this player named Kennedy Carter, who plays this weekend against Caitlin Clark. She's on Chicago. And she, while the ball's out of bounds being inbounded, runs over and like hip checks Caitlin Clark. Just like pretty violently, non-basketball play.
Yeah, blindside, no one's paying attention.
Runs into her.
Yeah, easy to win that
Angel
face-off.
Reese, the aforementioned rival of hers in college from LSU, who is also drafted in the top 10, is seen when she knocks her down, standing up on the bench and clapping and applauding that this girl, Carter, went over and like knocked her down the way that she did. And misguided people are going, oh, why are you upset about this? This is basketball. Like, she's in the big leagues now. She's got to be tough. She's plenty tough. She's getting beat up every single night. She just keeps getting up Dwayne Wade style and scoring her 20 points with her 7 rebounds and her 5 assists. She's doing fine. But then after the game, Carter is at the podium, and when she's asked about this, she doesn't want to talk about it. She's not willing to address it. This was post-game.
Kind of on the play before bumping in with Caitlin, it seemed like she turned to you a little bit after the fever
I
score.
didn't answer no Caitlin Clark questions.
Did she say anything to you?
I don't know what she said.
What'd you say to her?
I didn't say anything. That's enough.
Who said that's enough?
I don't know.
I don't know if that was a teammate or
That was the Chicago coach that said that.
a PR person.
No, that was the actual coach.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But okay, that's fine. I mean, so I guess is the coach sitting next to the player in the press conference?
Yes.
Okay.
That'd be correct.
Gotcha. But subsequently, she takes to social media and basically says, all she does is shoot three-pointers anyway. Why does anybody care? But there's clearly animus.
There's an animus.
There is annoyance with her. There is an aggravation with her that she exists as this entity that everyone's talking about, that she is getting all the headlines. And I understand if there's just a jealousy of like, she's not the only great player. Why do you guys only care about her? But to go as far as now she's taking these shots outside of a game or to be angry and posting, on social media about her, the energy to me is super weird. That's all I can say. Like, can you imagine in your field directly benefiting from somebody's presence in a sport where there's room for everyone? It's not like only one of us gets attention or only one of us gets to score points. Like you're in a field where you want super popular players, new stars. If you have 20, you want 50. You get more money, you get more TV numbers, you get more. All of it's good. But it seems like there is a disdain for her that I cannot understand.
I think it's sad, honestly. That's the only word I can come up with for it. Because again, what I'm trying to draw the line between is there's a stark difference to what Michael Jordan went through as a super hyped rookie, going into the lane against Detroit and having Rick Mahorn take his head off. These are rough basketball players from a different era. Caitlin Clark being fouled hard doesn't make her a victim. There's a lot of rookies who are going to get fouled hard as the league progresses. I'm sure Victor Wembanyama got hacked pretty good when he went up for a dunk attempt, and someone said, no free buckets, rookie, or something like that, right? That's normal. The next level is what we're talking about. If you want to deny that there's a special layer of resentment for this player, I don't know what else I can tell you. There is. It seems pretty intuitive. It's pretty obvious, right? The fist pumping when she gets cheap shotted. It's very different than what we're talking about in terms of the competitive balance and welcoming a rookie to the league. I think it's pathetic, honestly, that everybody's this upset, that she's not being welcomed. I understand she's got a lot of attention. I understand all that. And whether you're jealous of it or you don't think she deserves it, your call. Feel that way.
Right.
You already said it very well. This is going to benefit everybody.
But so she cannot, Kennedy Carter cannot suggest that she doesn't dislike Caitlin Clark or the attention she's getting. I'm looking at her X account right now. It's a bunch of retweets of people saying you own her with the box scores and all. Like, you're not doing any of this if you don't care about this person. She's living rent-free in your head at this point. It's odd. And it's not just this one Carter play, right? It has been kind of constant shrapnel. Like the energy has been very negative. The attention from outside the sport is, how's Caitlin Clark doing? She's the new star of the WNBA. It seems like inside the sport with a lot of the players, I'm not saying they all feel this way, but there is this like trying to put her in her place.
Yeah, you want to go prove that you're better than somebody. Go put up 31 points and whoop their butts, and they're not very good apparently, and that's fine. But what I keep trying to point out is that there's a difference between the competitive feeling of being a top level athlete and going, I'll show you that she ain't that special. Watch this. Watch what I do against them. Versus like the cheap shot, back patting. My entire agenda is about her sucking, her not being any good. You know what I mean? That just seems petty and small and destructive and like a big waste of time and energy. Like, either enjoy the new notoriety and money that's coming your way,
right,
or fight it kicking and screaming.
I just can't believe it, because for years the whole point has been there aren't enough people paying attention to this product. That's the argument that you hear. We deserve more eyeballs. We deserve more attention. You guys should be talking about us on your show, or you guys should be talking about women's basketball, or whatever it is. And now it's happening. We've done full segments. We did 30 minutes with Coles on Caitlin Clark a few weeks ago during the women's college basketball tournament. And for some reason, rather than that being a good thing, it's being taken as a bad thing now. Like, what am I missing? You wanted attention. You wanted eyeballs. You wanted people to care. It is now happening in ways that it never has before. But she's an outcast, and a lot of the players don't like her for the attention it seems like that she gets. So weird to me. What do you guys make of this? 800-636-1067 is the number. 800-636-1067 on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. Next hour, we will be talking with Ben Standig from The Athletic about the Commanders. Remember, it's 6 o'clock tonight, right here on Grant and Danny. We got those tickets to go see Nicki Minaj. Why is Caitlin Clark seemingly so unpopular among her peers in the WNBA? Forget the comments before the season even started, before she debuted, from some of the legends in the WNBA, which kind of made you raise the eyebrows and go, wow, that's really weird. There seems like there's some animus toward her. There's clear jealousy with some players, including one that cheap shotted her over the weekend and has been tweeting and retweeting everything anybody said that's been pro Kennedy Carter and anti Caitlin Clark since. You've got her getting cheap shotted, not fouled, not like a good basketball play, and her rival player from college jumping up off the bench to clap and cheer about basically the football play that happened before the inbound. How did we get here? And why is this happening? Let's go to Stefan in D.C. on Grant and Danny. What's up, Stefan?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, buddy.
So I think it's two parts to it. I think, the players are frustrated because a lot of them had to go overseas, had to, take pennies to play. And now that, the money is finally coming in, all the credit is being given to one player. And it's like all their accolades, all the hard work that they've done, it to the curb. And also the media, I think you guys have to understand, like, the way you guys frame stuff, and it can breed animosity. Because in the beginning, you guys were saying how, we never watched it, we never paid attention to it, until Caitlin. And then it's Caitlin. And then it kind of lends to, well, you guys should kiss her feet for, all the money that's coming your way. And so people are going to be frustrated.
But so I don't know that I don't know that anybody's got to kiss her feet, right? But
yeah, to me, there's a happy medium with not resenting her, not hating her guts because she exists.
To hate her. No, and by the way, you act like it's a new phenomenon that the media likes stars. You don't think LeBron James, who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated at 16, who was covered the way he was, every single game he played at St. Vincent St. Mary High School was on ESPN.
Was on ESPN?
You don't think that he got a lot of attention, that people didn't act like LeBron was the only star at the game? I mean, the Wizards for years and years here in D.C. couldn't sell tickets. And so Susan O'Malley started to bill the games as, whoever the number one player was in Washington, say Juwan Howard, and the number one player for the visiting team. With graphics, you see quarterback versus quarterback. I mean, that is such a normal thing, that the stars, that, the Damian Lillard is playing against Kevin Durant tonight. Should the Blazers hate Damian Lillard? Let's go to James in Woodbridge. Hey, James, how are you?
What's up, Grant, Danny? Good afternoon, gents.
Hey, bud.
Hey, listen, man. First of all, the comment, I just wanted to chime in and say Victor Wembanyama and the NBA, totally different monster, man. The NBA is soft as toilet tissue these days. No one's greeting these rookies the same way they used to.
That is true.
Nor should they. I don't think they should hurt anybody or do what happened to Caitlin, but totally different game. These guys are switching jerseys in the mid, at the end of games, and super, even if you're blown out and disrespected. But on to Caitlin Clark, man, and also Angel Reese. These young ladies actually are transforming the game. Like you said, I agree with you guys. You got people who are showing hate because they're able to get sneaker endorsements and local endorsements. And sure, you worked hard and you got a lot of eyes on the WNBA, but nothing like what these ladies have been able to do, both on the college level and on the pro level now. And for you to come and take cheap shots, and also a lot of the stars to be able to talk about Caitlin the way they're doing, they're not thinking about the TV contracts that's going to get redone and all the extra money that's going to be thrown their way. They're looking at this short term like, oh, who is she and why are we celebrating this one player? But
she is the greatest female college basketball player ever.
Exactly.
She is the reason that millions of people have started watching their game. And that is what I think, I could be wrong, Danny, that's what was being clamored for years. We're over here too. We're playing good basketball. Why is nobody watching? And now people watch Caitlin Clark, and then maybe they watch South Carolina take on Stanford, and they go, I kind of like this. This is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean,
they watch maybe Maybe you watch Caitlin Clark in Indiana play, and then the next night another game's on, and you're like, oh, I'll give that a shot because it's broken through.
Yeah,
It's like
that's the
now
entry point.
part of your purview. Now it's on your YouTube TV, brings up the next game, and you might watch. Again, the first caller said something like, you guys said you just started watching or only watched because of her. Now, you still don't watch.
Correct.
I don't watch WNBA much. I'm not suggesting that I've watched a couple of her games when I've seen them. That's the extent of what I've watched this year. And that's all I will probably watch. If she's on, if I bump into it, I'll stand and I'll watch it. I'm not going to seek a game out, right? But like college basketball, on the women's side, I started watching the tournament the last 2 years, both times, to watch her. Because you don't like that I don't watch or that other people haven't, it's not like I'm against the sport. It's just not something that's been on my radar that I'm into. Doesn't make it not true. The proof is in the numbers.
Yeah, the television numbers are staggering.
People invested now than ever before, and it's a Caitlin Clark thing. It is.
We mock, rightfully so, by the way, when Steve Spurrier won a game and he didn't like that they didn't throw passes enough. Like, I'm sorry it didn't go the way you want. Like, they wanted, this is a big, broad generalization of they, but the WNBA and folks that are proponents of it have wanted it to be taken on its own merits and elevated to this higher place than it's ever been. And it's happening, and they're going, yeah, but not like that. We wanted it the different way, the way that we've been trying to get you to do it for so long. And I'm sorry, that's not how it always gets to go. You've got your notoriety. It happened. It happened in a way that I don't think anybody necessarily expected, but it's here. And the level of resentment is so petty. It's so small. It's this bizarre crusade against your own success.
And it's
allow the tide to rise to it. Everyone's better off.
Yes.
Let it happen.
The thing that you want is happening. You're right. It's not on maybe the terms you were hoping for. We're not breaking down an Aja Wilson box score, but people are paying attention. That was the goal, right? That's what you're interested in. And it's not every player. It's not like the whole league is anti-Caitlin Clark, but there are enough of them. I told you the first time I saw Diana Taurasi, and I can't remember the names of some of the others, but like some of these like household name, Kelsey Plum.
Yeah, they're doing like a broadcast, like Manning cast style.
Not even that. I just mean when they're being asked about Caitlin Clark after the draft, it was like very put her in her place, pat her on the head. And I'm like, God, that's really strange. I remember coming to you and being like, dude, look at this quote. This is pretty weird. And that's been the whole energy most of the time that is perceived from the outside. And now you got her taking cheap shots while players are standing up on the bench applauding. That tells you they're talking about not liking her. 800-636-1067. Why is she so unpopular? That's the question on G&D.
Kenny, on the play before bumping in with Caitlin, it seemed like she turned to you a little bit after the fever
I
score.
didn't ask her no Caitlin Clark questions.
Did she say anything to you?
I don't know what she said.
What'd you say to her?
I didn't say anything. That's enough.
And then went back into the locker room and probably got high-fived for saying she wouldn't answer any Caitlin Clark questions. Welcome back, Grant and Danny on the Fan. The G&D show, exclusively sponsored by the law firm of Kondori and Murad. Provide legal services in estate planning, elder law, probate admin. Schedule your free consultation with their Fairfax-based attorneys. Visit kmlawyers.com. Be sure to mention the show. You'll get a discount, kmlawyers.com. Ben Standig in a half hour right at 5:30. We'll talk to him about the Commanders' decision to move on from Brandon McManus. 1 hour from now at 6 o'clock, Nicki Minaj tickets. We're giving those away all week long at 6 right here on G&D. We're taking you up to 6:15 tonight ahead of Nats pregame. That was the voice of Kennedy Carter. She plays for the Chicago Sky. She's averaging 12 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. She took the cheap shot with the ball yet to be inbounded to Caitlin Clark that led to Angel Reese jumping up off the bench and applauding her for the football play on Caitlin Clark. Clark afterward asked about it, said she felt like she's getting hit pretty hard pretty frequently. Look, in game, you got to deal.
Yeah.
Look, and I think she probably has. I mean, she puts up with more target on her back than anybody else in the sport every single night. But one of the comments that didn't make sense to me from Carter, and this is how I knew, okay, this wasn't just they were talking trash during the game and Draymond style, like it got away from you a little bit. You did something you regretted. Was like after the game that I'm not talking about her, which I thought was weak. If you're going to do that, answer some questions like professional athlete, professional press conference. You had the moment. Now you're asked about it. And it doesn't mean you have to say what anybody wants to hear. If you want to say she talks too much trash or she's a rookie, I put her in her place or, whatever, that's fine. Say whatever you want to say. But I'd say the same thing with an athlete playing for the Chicago Bulls. If you get involved in the moment and then they come up to your locker as a media after the game and they say, what happened? And you go, I'm not talking about it. All right, well, I just don't love that. But the comment where she basically said, Caitlin Clark shoots threes, what else does she do? What else does she bring to the table? Really?
There's an extra layer of glee in her failure.
What failure?
Well, you know what I mean? Like, and if
she's averaging, by the way, just because a lot of people listening probably are not paying attention or don't know, Danny, she's averaging 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. Like, by merit, she'll be an all-star. She's one of the better players statistically in the league. The person that shoved her, who said she doesn't do anything but shoot threes, is averaging 12 points, fewer points, 3 rebounds, fewer rebounds, 3 assists, half the assists, and less steals defensively than Caitlin Clark.
So all I'm trying to say is, like, anytime she's not successful or she has 3 points in a game, there's glee in her not performing well. Okay, I guess if that's the focus, you know what I mean? It's unserious to me. The resentment, the anger at her success or the attention she gets. I mean, the elephant in the room is she's on a $28 million deal with Nike, right? Like, without having set foot on a WNBA court. That people find that bothersome. I wouldn't. Like, I'd go, I wish that was me, but it probably won't be. But it's good for all of us. If she signs a $28 million deal, maybe I can sign up $2 million deal with Adidas. I mean, I got no idea. It's just, it seems I don't have a better way to describe it. Like, I can't believe that's the focal point. I can't believe that's what we're spending so much energy, time, and focus on. I'm not talking about you and I. I mean, like, the resentment that she's facing, because it exists.
Yeah, I said going to break, why is she facing the resentment? And I don't even know if that really is what matters. Like, I don't know that that's the best question. I guess that there's still a debate as to whether or not it is happening and it exists, right? Like, there's a lot of WNBA marks that I know, people, fans of the league that are in the media or whatever, and I've asked about this, and they go, oh, well, it's just a select few players. It's just a few WNBA stars that, are taking issue with her. And my point is, well, first of all, okay, so let's say it's 11 people. Please explain why they feel that way. She is good for the league and will do as much good for the league as any player ever has. No rookie has ever brought to the league in 10, 11 games what she has so far. And while Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi and Cynthia Cooper and Shemeka Holdsclaw and some of these all-time greats have done more for women's basketball than Caitlin Clark, forgive her for it's been 10 games. Forgive her for being 22 years old or whatever she is. It'll take a little time to get to that level. But You can't do any more for the sport. Like, she has completely changed the interest in this sport in a way. Can anybody living right now say that they've done more for the sport that they play than her among the major sports? I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah,
maybe that's a dumb question.
No, but I know what you mean. Like, in terms of taking it from one place to the next.
Yes. Like, soccer, the only thing I can think of as a comp recently was when Messi
came to Inter
was
Milan.
playing in the
Miami.
MLS in Miami. And all of a sudden, everyone was talking about it. Every game he scored a goal. I find myself like trying to figure out if they're playing that night and trying to watch a game. In terms of, not like I'm Steph Curry, I changed the way it's played. Now we're all shooting threes. Now it's all about spacing. The literal 6 people are watching and now 9 are. The actual impact in terms of money coming in, numbers, ratings, interest, the business stuff. Who's done more for their sport in the last 30 years, currently, than she has? Let's go to Jay in DC on Grant and Danny. What's up, Jay?
What's up, you guys?
Hey, buddy.
Yeah, I'm a long time WNBA fan. I have been like a little disappointed, and I'm going to agree with you that hopefully, like if I was like in the league and I had been there for a while, that I wouldn't have any animosity towards her. But I feel like we always give these opinions as if we're showing the best of us. But I can give you some context. Like, you have no idea how, like, honestly, like if you're making 30,
say that again.
Say it one more time, Jack.
You broke up.
20. Oh yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
So
if
you
you're
just
making
said
like
you have
20,
no idea, and then we didn't hear what you said.
Yeah, like you have no idea how you would respond if you were making like $20,000-$30,000 a year, and then someone comes in and they're a millionaire already. And I just want to give you some context, like little things like y'all asked Darius, like, who was that talking? And he was like, oh, it's the coach. He didn't say that's Teresa Witherspoon, one of the greatest players that ever lived. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't, like, if it was Jason Kidd, you would have said Jason Kidd. And it's like little things like you're saying like Caitlin is the greatest college basketball player that ever lived. And, I could argue that I think it might be Candace
I mean,
Parker.
we can
There's an argument, yeah.
A great score statistically. Nobody ever scored more points is what I meant.
Yeah, but I just want to say, like, it is really weird because it's not just her. This is one of the best rookie classes ever. Like, the Misfits game is getting put to Capital One Arena, not because of the Fever game is too, but the Sky game as well because of Angel Reese and Camila Cardozo.
You're going to play in front of 3 times as many people or more in some of these arenas, and it's because of her.
But no, they're doing it because of Andrew Reese and Camila Cardozo. They're moving the Sky game to Capital One Arena.
But do you think that would be happening if Caitlin Clark didn't exist?
I think it's really weird. I think it's really weird that she's the only person.
I'm asking you a question because you follow the W. I don't. So my question is part of why they're. Do you think that those players you just mentioned, and I know Angel Reese from her feud with Caitlin Clark, the other girl you name I don't know. I think she
Camila Cardozo, the one that the guy jumped out of the stands hit. Yeah.
Okay. So my question is, would they be moving those games if Caitlin Clark didn't exist at Iowa the last 2 years? I don't think they would be.
I don't think so either.
Okay, so then it's because of Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, and I really think you have to come from the perspective of like they're not making any money, and like I mean we're talking about people you have to go overseas and play, and come back and play another whole season in order to just like have a normal life,
Right.
Like,
but I guess my point is I don't have a problem then if you like feel some type of way about her making money, even though I think that that's like unbecoming and not great. Maybe don't cheap shot her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely surprised. Like, it's crazy to me, but I'm just saying we can't put ourselves in their shoes because we haven't been through what they've been through. Like, just for one second, Carter, she was picked 4th overall. None of y'all know her. Most people don't know her, and she was out of the league last year. She was picked
Is it true,
4th
by the way,
overall in
that
the
she's
draft.
been kicked off of 2 teams for basically not acting right?
Yeah, basically, that's just a person. That's one person. There's a few other people like Kelsey Plum. That's the record that Caitlin broke. But Kelsey Plum wasn't getting as much recognition as she was.
Of course,
like
but the point is, and thanks for the call, Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Appreciate you, bro.
Always do.
That's good info, and it's good to have someone who tracks it well that can speak on it with us. But my point is, everything you're saying, yes, I agree.
Yep.
And this is what you want, right? As a WNBA fan, this is what they, as WNBA players, want. Like, stop me when the bad thing's happening. Now, his point is true. Like, But I think this is one of those examples where you can't compare sport to normal stuff.
Mhm.
Like if someone came into the radio station making millions and you and I are sitting here going, that sucks. Now, first of all, I'm not going to body check them when they're trying to get their water in the kitchen or treat them terribly.
Or like not leave the studio when our show's over. So they can do, you know what I mean? Like that stuff.
Yeah. But having said that, I think like sports is one of these leagues where the most famous people make all the money. If you're Kennedy Carter, you already were watching Kelsey Plum on commercials. You were watching Asia Wilson on commercials that you weren't getting. Were you mad at them or was it okay? And now because she's making even more money or more, so no one should get more money. No one should get more attention for being a star. I mean, where does that stop? That's stupid.
I want to address what Jay was talking about because again, he's far more plugged in, knows more than I do on the subject by a lot. Here's my comp. When Bryce Harper makes the major leagues as a teenager and the whole world's paying attention, right? Cole Hamels has a chance to go, this teenager, screw this kid. I'm a Cy Young candidate. I'll strike his ass out. That's not what he does. He does the Kennedy Carter route. He throws at his back. It's gutless. It's chicken bleep. It's pathetic. It's sad. You're mad that this guy's got some attention and there are more eyeballs on Major League Baseball this week than there normally would be. So your goal isn't to throw a couple fastballs by and make him look stupid by changing speeds, to show that you're better, to show him up that way, to outcompete him. You throw it at his back. You cheap shot at him. It's the equivalent. It's absurd. It's petty. It's small. And Cole Hamels rightly was vilified for that. Mike Rizzo after the game did things that Mike Rizzo doesn't normally do. He's usually very, everybody plays hard. He called him gutless, if you recall. Go back to it.
And we went in on him.
Yes,
right?
rightfully so.
Mean, this is not new. Like Cole Hamels got heat from all over the league for looking like a little baby, for being a loser about it.
Yeah.
And by the way, the coolest part about that was, not that anyone cares, is Bryce came around and stole home, which was nice. Let's go to Nevin in Silver Spring on Grant and Danny. Hey, Nevin.
Good afternoon, fellas. I've been waiting for a while.
Good to hear. What's up, bro?
So the first caller you had was spot on. Everybody's been right on it. So my thing is this, and I follow the league very closely as well. You wanted the attention, but it's kind of like getting a secondhand Christmas gift. Somebody gives you a gift because you wanted a gift, but it's still presented in newspaper instead of gift wrapping. So they're getting what they wanted, but many don't know how to capitalize on it. And there is no place for the play that Carter made, right? But at the same time, Caitlin's still talking. Caitlin's still in people's face. Caitlin's still being what players do. They talk trash.
But we agree, Nevin. Sure. That's part of, like, same as Angel Reese in her face, and that's okay. That's basketball.
Exactly. That's what happens with the sport. So overall, when you're dealing with, obviously, and I don't know if this is going to be politically correct, I'm not saying anything bad, but this is an emotional response that creates vitriol, anger, frustration, and typically it's usually in relationships, it's women, right? They come with the attitude, the this, the that. So you're going to get a bunch of that this season. It's going to be, this is not the end of it. Hopefully, of course, the physical play that's outside of the game gets downplayed and pushed aside, and they just play the game. But this is definitely bringing attention on the sport. But I looked at like the first week of the season. I'm sorry, where when Caitlin wasn't playing, you didn't hear the same marketing. You didn't see the same marketing. You didn't see the same schedules coming out. Right, the games were on some, but they were highlighted. The entire schedule highlighted by.
I mean, what should happen? Like, the media is not going to televise a random game that isn't going to get the same numbers. The Wizards haven't been on prime time, but twice in the last 4 years. They're not the Lakers.
If you're saying that the league is getting the attention, that new fan base is Caitlin's fan base predominantly. There are a few stray eyes that are looking at everything, but they're following her. That's her fan base. And yes, she has some darlings and some love outside of Iowa and that market that she capitalized on. And now the league is going to capitalize on it. But that directly, like right now, I don't think it puts anything extra in the other players' pockets. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. So it's a good call. I disagree that it doesn't help the other players, because as we're seeing with them now having chartered flights, there's more money coming into the sport. The TV numbers will go up. That's the biggest way to make money. Is that all of a sudden raises the amount of money that the teams shell out to players. You're going to start making more money. So we'll disagree on that. But I do think you made a really good point about a lot of the new eyeballs are more Caitlin fans than maybe WNBA fans.
Sure, which is, by the way, it's bound to happen. And you don't get 100% retention rate of conversion of Caitlin Clark fans becoming then WNBA fans or Fever fans or whatever. But it's the same way with any star player. I mean, again, the Lionel Messi comp is a great one. Like, I don't know how many true, MLS fans there are now, but when Messi comes to town, you can't get a ticket. Shohei Ohtani's the same way. Like, the star power as an entry point is a time-honored thing for leagues to market.
But also this idea of like, well, the other teams aren't on in the same slot or aren't on national TV.
Yep.
Look at Major League Baseball, Sunday Night Baseball. It's the same 9 teams basically rotated every single Sunday night.
When's that Marlins Nats Sunday Night Baseball game?
Yeah,
When is that?
You're not going to find it. Tommy's in Herndon. What's up, Tommy?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey buddy.
Good.
Hey, everybody's pretty much covered everything, but the other thing that's not mentioned is the eyes are all on all these other players. This is your chance to show, hey, I'm a great NIL person too. It's amazing you're throwing money away. Who wants to sign somebody cheering somebody else getting thrown to the floor? Like if I'm XYZ Corporation, not me, good luck.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that, Tommy.
You're leaving money on the table. All the pushing and shoving of her, that's welcome to the league. I get it. But you want to apply that, and I'm XYZ Corporation, you ain't getting my money.
Appreciate you, buddy. Don't you agree with my take, though, that there is a reasonable comp here? It's not perfect, right? Because he's not doing as much for his sport as Caitlin Clark is for hers. But like Wemby just came in the league as this crown generational, not since LeBron have we talked about a guy like this. If the argument is just there's a lot of veterans that don't make as much or that don't have the endorsements, that are kind of annoyed that everyone thinks they're really good when I've been here putting in the work, there's 1,000 guys like that in the NBA that could be angry at Wemby. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All I see is dudes putting him over and taking pictures with him. And maybe they foul him hard in the middle of the game or whatever, but there's not
You're gonna
that
compete,
same, it just isn't that way.
And what people are now tweeting, because I'm at Funny Danny Grant's at Grant H. Paulson, are finding like Caitlin Clark lowlights of her cheap shotting people and being dirty over the course of her career. This is a separate issue as far as I'm concerned, right? I'm glad you found those and you're trying to draw interesting comparisons, and that's adorable. Here's the point that we're trying to make. Nobody likes her. That's not fair. There's a huge level of resentment among the players in this league, it seems like, towards this person that's bringing them attention, right? And it's that resentment that's bizarre. So if you're like, if the comment is from Kennedy Carter, hey, she's a dirty player, I don't like that, and I responded in kind. Now we have a conversation.
No.
That's not what's happening.
And I haven't heard anybody say
that's not what's happening.
I have not heard anybody say that. I don't think this is not a Caitlin Clark, Draymond Green, and y'all like her, but you should know that she's the dirtiest player on the floor. Waiting for someone to say that. Brandon, Fort Washington, what's up?
Hey, guys. A lot of people wrote out what I was going to say, but one thing is that the WNBA has always been physical. I've been watching it for years. So some of this is also highlighted by the media, like, oh, my God, we got to protect her. You're messing up the money. This is how all the players are.
But you would agree, though, that we're not talking about when she's getting fouled in game. The play was not even a basketball play, and it wasn't even during the game.
The play with Kennedy Carter,
yeah,
that's out of bounds. That's out of bounds. I watched it live. That was out of bounds. I get that. But I think some of this is also, let's remember the run up to when she was going into the league. There was a lot of people in the media saying she's going to be the GOAT day one. She's going to have all this transformational things as a rookie. And that's when Dironda Taurasi said that, hey, she got a lesson coming. And that's what some now people are doing that, but no, she's learning how to translate into the NBA. I mean, to the WNBA. She's translating now. The college stuff she was doing ain't going to suffice. So everybody wants the same thing she was doing in college immediately in the pros, first 11 games, first 12 games, and all of that. That's not going to work.
Appreciate you. Yeah, I think there's something to that. I also think the Taurasi and like the stuff that was being said by some of the legends did set forward a little tone where everyone was like, oh yeah, that's right. She's gonna have to level up. Like it's their chance in a lot of ways, these players, to show this league is better than people think.
Right, which I think
we're really good, and she was great in college, but you guys don't know that we're actually physical, and so they're trying to go overboard to send that message.
Sure, and again, I think some of that, by the way, is natural competitiveness, and that's good. Like,
yeah,
I mean, again, it's our thing isn't the same, but if we get introduced to the new hotshot radio guy, it's like, hey, maybe we're pretty good at this. We've been kicking people's butts for more than a decade now. Like maybe we could do something about it. That's normal. That's competitiveness. That's human nature. That's fine. It's the next layer that we're talking about here. Everyone wants to talk about the first part, being competitive. Totally fine and reasonable. Go lock her up on defense. Make it tough on her. Go hang 30 in her face. Go do that. There's a different animal, though, that's going on.
Write this day down in your Grant and Danny history books. We moved the Commander's guest so that we could take more calls on the WNBA and Caitlin Clark.
What your boy just did.
Ben Standig will join us next, about 30 minutes after planned. We want to talk to him about the Commander's decision to release Brandon McManus, their kicker, before he ever kicked for them after a couple allegations of sexual assault. You're listening to The Fan. 30 minutes from right now on Grant and Danny. Tickets could be yours to go see Nicki Minaj at Capital One Arena. We're giving those away all week long. You can call us at 800-636-1067. That is the number. Jot it down. We're with you until about 6:15 this evening. Going to catch up with Ben Standig of The Athletic in just a couple of moments. Might have to push him. It sounds like he's got something going on closer to 6 o'clock to talk about the Brandon McManus news for the Commanders, which, Danny, came out yesterday. They have released their kicker, and they are moving forward without him. So now they got to go find a kicker pretty quickly.
Indeed. They acted pretty swiftly here. We started the show with this. One would hope, or one would offer the benefit of the doubt, hoping that they, know more than the general public does and are aware of information if they moved on quickly. It's not just out of convenience or because it's the kicker or they don't want to be associated with an accusation. So who knows? Obviously, for me personally, in terms of judgment, I'm going to continue to let the facts play out. I know so little about this. The only people that do are kind of, intimately involved in this thing. And that's kind of the summation of it. So, this is one of those harsh reality of the world things, right? Where if you want job security, don't go into kicking.
The other big story we talked about earlier in the show, this morning, Justin Jefferson and the Vikings agreed to a record-breaking deal. Jefferson becomes the highest paid receiver in league history, the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And there are more receivers ready to get paid. Jamar Chase, Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb among them. There are others, but those are the big three, I would say, that have their hands out for next ups. 5 of the top 8 highest paid non-QBs in the sport are wide receivers. It's about to be at least 6, maybe 7 of the top 10 are wide receivers when those guys get paid. And it won't be that long, probably before the start of the season. Wide receiver has become, according to the way teams are spending money, Danny, the number 2 most important position in the league. They're saying quarterback we got to handle, and then elite level wide receiver. A wide receiver one is more important to these teams right now than a cornerback one, than an edge rusher, which had supplanted it for some time.
Indeed. And this is, the league is telling you this, right? Again, it's not just the amount of money going to these top end guys that are astoundingly productive in the era of passing offenses and yards and touchdowns through the air, but it's also with draft picks. There not only are guys getting this kind of huge money up at the top, but they're being drafted disproportionately at the top of drafts as well. I mean, look at this year. Now, this was viewed as a really good receiver class. It doesn't always go this way, but everybody's desperate. I think what did 3 wideouts go in the top 10 and so many more in the first and second round. I mean, this is the new paradigm. This is where the world is. This is where the league is, right? I mean, it tells you everything in terms of, I look foolish, but I said, hey, during the season, I think they should lock up Cam Curl, talking about Washington. Like, that's a playmaker. That guy helps them. I not maybe less of a playmaker, but that's a really solid player. He's good. And then when they let him go, I'm going, man, that's a big risk. No, it wasn't at all. Nobody's paying for safeties. Nobody cares about the safety spot. It's barely above punter in terms of where these guys' salary cap allocations are for the most part. This is where it's going. This is where the league is at this point. Is it going to be that way in 10, 15 years? I have no idea. Someone's going to buck that trend and win with a bunch of no-name receivers not making all that much money. Maybe it's Jim Harbaugh in LA with the Chargers doing it a different way. But this is where the league has gone in light speed.
I wonder who we would get a consensus on if we had a vote as being the most valuable non-quarterback in the NFL right now. Because typically, I think what you would do is you would just say, who's the best defensive player? That's Myles Garrett or Nick Bosa or Micah Parsons, let's say. You could easily just go with that guy and keep it moving. Justin Jefferson got paid like the most valuable non-quarterback in the National Football League. I actually think he's a great answer. Tyreek Hill, to me,
that's my first answer,
might be right at the top of this list because I remember watching a game. Was it the playoff game when he got banged up or end of the regular season? And you're watching Tua run that offense when he was on the field. Then he was on the sideline. He came back out. They started moving it again. He went back to the sideline. They bogged down again. I think Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and I'm not a big fan of saying running back is a super valuable position, but Christian McCaffrey and the way he's used in San Francisco with his touchdown totals last year,
it's pretty good.
Basically, he's your RB1 and your pass catcher 1, if you think about it that way. He ran for 1,450 yards and then he added an additional 600 yards as a receiver on almost 70 catches.
Ho hum.
I hate the idea, though, of going running back there. What do we think? Is it okay to put him on a podium?
I don't know that I would, if I had to think about every player in the league, he'd end up there. But here's the thing: it's not outrageous at all.
Here's how I'm thinking about it. Take a guy off of a team other than a quarterback, and who hurts the team the most? If you take McCaffrey off San Francisco, and now it's Purdy and those weapons with Kyle, they're good, but they have just taken on a devastating blow. Right? The Vikings without Jefferson, we saw it for a stretch this year. Now, they obviously at that time didn't have Cousins either. In fact, they won a bunch of games in a row without him before Cousins got hurt. I think they went 4-0, 5-0, something like that, and his first 5 games missed. I don't know if that dings how valuable he is, that they were able to get by without him. They obviously have Addison, Hawkinson pre-ACL. They didn't even really have a running game going. But now with a young quarterback, his value is going to go up even more. And I do think the proof's been in the pudding with Tyreek Hill. Although, if you want to argue against that, he leaves Kansas City and they've won a couple Super Bowls in a row.
I guess that's fair to say, right?
You know, if you're saying he's the most valuable non-quarterback in the NFL, he left Kansas City, they didn't replace it, and they've still won a couple championships.
Yeah. I would say the Pat Mahomes factor helps an awful lot there, and their offense changed dramatically in the years since. They were nowhere near as dynamic over the course of a long season without him, most especially last year. I think they were 16th or 15th in terms of points per game, but I think your point stands. My argument for Hill, I was turned on to this by Deshaun Jackson. I was wrong. I didn't want Deshaun Jackson here. I was like, I don't want anything to do with that dude. I just go into the end zone normally one time. I found him irritating, whatever. I saw the impact. I didn't truly get it because it's not just the deep catches. And those are great, by the way. It's not just the easy button that he hits once every game and a half. It's the threat. The threat of him tearing by you and making you a SportsCenter and NFL Network highlight or low light in your case. The threat of him blazing past you opens up everything for everybody else. All the Travis Kelce catches, all the underneath stuff, all the reverse actions and little flips to second and third tight ends and receivers working back. Tyreek Hill streaking down that field is terrifying to defenses. And that, to me, is worth its weight in gold. I get it. Like, I get paying that guy all that much. I really do. I mean, when he's on the field for Miami, they are quite simply a different team. This was a pedestrian franchise. Now, the answer obviously has to include Mike McDaniel. It's got to include Tua being healthy. It's got to include Jalen Waddle. It's got to include that running game, which is underrated and outstanding with a couple of running backs running 24 miles an hour when they get the ball on the wing. But to me, Hill, because not only of the catches, the yards, which are astounding video game-like numbers, but also that threat is worth so much.
Looking at a list that was put together going into last football season on NFL.com of what they perceived last year to have been the MVP's non-quarterback in terms of actual value to the team, they had Micah Parsons one. Now, we've really never seen the Cowboys have to get by without him. I think he's missed a total of 2 games the last 2 years or something like that. But I understand the logic of saying edge rusher, defensive stalwart, playmaker who gets to the quarterback. Think about TJ Watt in Pittsburgh and the record with and without him. Have you ever seen that stat they have?
Oh, you know it intuitively, whether you know the record or not. They're just not the same team without him.
But it's actually nuts. It's something like they win 80% of the time with him and like 35% of the time without him or something completely stupid. But I still am programmed to think that an edge makes a lot of sense there, a guy like a Myles Garrett, like a perennial DPOY type. But right now, this moment, as Justin Jefferson got paid today, I'd be okay saying Jefferson is the most valuable non-quarterback. Tyreek Hill feels even a little more valuable for what you just said. I think he sends more ripple effects in terms of usage. And because Jefferson operates kind of on 2 levels for the most part of the offense, he can do stuff underneath, he can do stuff middle of the field, and then he can also run a lot of those 9 routes and go balls and just get behind you on the deep post. So there's a little bit more of even a scary nature to him. But I'd be curious to get thoughts on this from people. Let's open up the phones. 800-636-1067. Want to hop in on the MGM National Harbor listener lines. Justin Jefferson breaks a record today for money paid to a non-quarterback. And the question we're asking you guys is, who is the most valuable non-QB in the league right now? You're listening to Grant and Danny. The NBA just announced a couple of minutes ago that it will be breaking up the NBA draft into 2 days. The first round will be held Wednesday, June 26th, 8 Eastern in prime time, which is normal. And then round 2 of the NBA draft will take place Thursday afternoon, the following day at 4 o'clock East time, while many of you are working.
Okay.
Now,
it's a choice.
Having the draft's second round at 4 o'clock, while it makes no sense, seems okay to me because nobody's going to want to watch it necessarily. I mean, there's very few NBA marks that love college basketball. They're going to be all in, obviously. But you can't break those two things up in prime time and then have a 8 p.m. second round of the NBA draft and act like it's the first round. Having said that, this is a change I don't really understand. I'm quite sure they'll make more money somehow. Maybe you can sell 2 of everything now because it's 2 days. I don't really know how that works. But as a consumer, I will watch the second round because it's the NBA draft and it's 3.5 hours or whatever, 4 hours, one night, and I'm committed all in on this thing. The reason it works in the NFL to have round 1 and then round 2 and then a third day with rounds 4 through 7 is that there's still immense interest. And like the third day, a lot of people are kind of checking out and not really paying attention. The second round of the draft as an entity is pretty tough watch.
Indeed. I mean, this is the quintessential pick, and then it's like as soon as the pick is made, everyone kind of goes to the experts, and it's like, now he's not coming over to the United States for probably 3 or 4 or 6 or 10 years. His name is Juan Carlos Navarro, and he might play stateside for 2 minutes. But that's what they chose. But his rights have already been traded to Memphis, who traded them back from Portland. Okay, I don't know. Is he going to play for the team or not? Like it's a very less impactful usually, but every once in a while, you get a little Nikola Jokic.
We'll talk to Ben Standig in 12 minutes, top of the hour at 6 o'clock, about the Commanders choosing to cut Brandon McManus pretty quickly. They said they were going to do a thorough investigation and dive into what happened, and then a few days later, they have removed themselves from the situation by just cutting the kicker who's alleged to have committed sexual assault. We'll talk to Standig about how much digging and researching they did into what happened on that flight before they just moved on from McManus. And at that time, when Ben joins us at the top of the hour, by the way, coming up at 6, we'll give away tickets to see Nicki Minaj at Capital One Arena. The question right now is, Justin Jefferson broke a record for money for a non-quarterback today. Highest paid non-QB in league history. Who's the most valuable non-quarterback in the NFL? Justin's in Sterling, wants to join us. What's up, Justin?
Hey, fellas. Long time, first time.
Very cool. Thank you.
I knew that was coming. My answer to this one is pretty easy. TJ Watt is got to be the answer. Grant, you are not even close to how bad the Steelers are without TJ Watt. They are 1-10, less than 10% of their games they win without TJ Watt. So
and
that's
they're
all
one
I
of those
got.
teams too, Justin. There's not a lot of margin for error with them.
I mean, he's incredible too. By the way,
they're always like 10-7 right now. That's kind of what that team is. They don't get good quarterback play, haven't in several years post Ben Roethlisberger. They have not had quality offenses. They don't score a lot of points. So they are a defensive-led, turnover-creating, very opportunistic team. They need those takeaways. They need the big stops and the pressures to end drives. They're winning games close. So when you don't have your best playmaker who gets you your sacks, 22.5 of them in 2021, 19 of them last year, has led the league 3 of the last 4 seasons. Only time he didn't was when he missed 8 games. He's arguably the best pass rusher, certainly the best at getting home in the league. He's led the league in TFLs twice in the last 4 seasons. Then a team that doesn't really have a lot of margin for error, Danny, it's not surprising to me they lose a lot of those games. They might win by 3, 4, 5 points if he makes a couple game-changing plays. But 1-10 is crazy.
Yeah, it's like it's not like he's carrying or throwing the football either, but like it just nothing happens when he's not there. It's not only just the sacks, which are an astounding number. I mean, it's 56 over the last 3 healthy seasons that he's had that he's been able to put together. 56.5, in fact. But it's the game wrecking, the thing that we were promised from somebody else. I can't remember what his name was, but it's the tackles for loss, it's the forced fumbles, it's the plays that are instantaneously dead on arrival because he's already in the backfield. It's not running in a certain direction because he might be there to ruin it for you. Just an absolutely incredible dominant force. He may be the answer.
But if you could have Justin Jefferson or TJ Watt,
Justin Jefferson.
I think you should take Justin Jefferson in a league that's about offense and scoring and explosive plays. If you could have Tyreek Hill or TJ Watt, I think you should take Tyreek Hill.
I do too.
That's why I got to go with those guys over him. I certainly understand the logic. Now, up until a few years ago, the league disagreed with me because the second highest paid position became edge. But now it's becoming wide receiver, as you saw today. Would you rather have McCaffrey or TJ Watt?
TJ Watt. I mean, I love McCaffrey, but running back injury, it's not like Watt's healthy all the time. He had that 1 year that you just mentioned where he was hurt a bunch.
But if I guaranteed that they play every game, both of them.
Watt barely.
I think I go McCaffrey again because of my priority of offense, right? And of playmakers and of yards and points and explosives. But, man, has it been a long time around here since you had a game wrecker. A guy who just ate worlds. Because he's out there and in every single down, he's got a chance to swing the pendulum on this game in your favor. As you said, it was what Chase was supposed to be. Didn't work out that way. But who's the last one? I mean, you got to go back to, LeVar had some moments like that early in his career. Sean Taylor certainly had some of those traits at safety.
It's rarefied air, man, to be that
Manley.
dominant, that great. Yeah. I mean, even those guys who are stars, who are incredible. Not to the same degree like this.
Grant and Danny on the Fan. Let's talk to Ben Standig next about the McManus release and if he saw it coming. This is G&D. Annie. We're done at 6:15. That's when Charlie and Dave have Nats pregame. 6:45 first pitch tonight. Homestand beginning against the Mets, who the Nationals have not played all season until right now, which is a shame because the Mets have been just an absolute debacle this year. Hopefully they can take advantage of that bad bullpen in this series. Caller 10 right now at 800-636-1067. Congrats. You're going to win 2 tickets. You're going to see Nicki Minaj Friday. I should say, I'm going to read this spot again. This is the worst written spot I've ever seen. I'm struggling with this. Congratulations. You've won 2 tickets to see Nicki Minaj presents Pink Friday 2 World Tour. Maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Presents Pink Friday 2, whatever that is. So I just need to update my file.
Yeah.
That's
one of those. I saw it and I was like, Grant's going to read that one. I didn't get it either. I read that thing 10 times and I was like, who's? It's on Friday?
It's my fault. It's not whoever wrote this is fault. I threw them under the bus. I just don't know what this is. Pink Friday 2 World Tour. It's the Pink Friday. I think the tour is called Pink Friday 2.
That's what.
Monday, September 9th, Capital One Arena. Tickets are on sale now. For tickets and more event information, go to thefandc.com/events, courtesy of Live Nation. My bad, raising my hand. That one's on me. Someone's going to win the tickets. That's all that matters. We'll run it back tomorrow at 6. We'll try to do better. We'll rub dirt on it. That's all we can do.
Yes, look at the film.
Show's exclusively sponsored by the law firm of Condorian Murad. They'll help you with your legal services, estate planning, elder law, probate admin. Schedule your free consultation with a Fairfax-based attorney. KMLawyers.com. Mention the show, get a discount. KMLawyers.com. Let's talk to our buddy Ben Standig of The Athletic. Covers the Commanders. Always very plugged in on all of their proceedings. Benjamin, how are you?
I'm well, fellas. Thanks for your patience, and thanks for having me on.
No worries at all.
Of course, buddy.
Why don't we just dive right into it? Brandon McManus was cut by the team yesterday. I was very surprised because they came out and issued a statement saying they had to do pretty much a thorough investigation in the allegations. Did they do that, and that led to them cutting them? Or did they just decide this is not worth our time? He's just a kicker.
Yeah, well, we'll talk to Dan Quinn on Wednesday and get insight into, to whatever degree he'll share what they did. Look, I don't know how much they could have done in a week, obviously, to have a strong feel. I mean, did they talk to McManus? Did it possibly spoke to Tony Busby, the attorney representing the accusers in this case? He's, of course, the attorney who represented the women against Deshaun Watson. He's a very public type of attorney, meaning he's more than willing to use the media, social media, et cetera, to accentuate any aspects of the case that he wants to. For me, I think after the first 24 hours, it kind of became they're going to have to look at this as a cost-benefit analysis. That I absolutely believe in innocent until proven guilty, and Brandon McManus hopefully has his time to refute these charges, or for the accusers to show why they made these charges or allegations against him, I should say. But from the Commander's perspective, obviously this alleged incident occurred last year with another team. They are trying to turn the page on everything that happened the last few years that we know of under Dan Snyder in terms of similar type of allegations. And bottom line is also, look, it's a kicker. It's something that it's a position that you can, find elsewhere. He was only signed to a 1-year deal. I just, the longer that trial goes on, if he's still on this team, the more is going to continue to come up one way or the other. So I think I'm assuming on some level they just looked at it that way and just decided it just is not for us right now, and they moved on.
Ben, hard to quantify this, but just, you're around these guys, you've gotten to know them, et cetera, and you're plugged in. How much more do they know than we do at this point?
I mean, again, let's just assume that they talked to McManus, and, logically he would want to, share what he could with them as to why he and, his attorney have said that these are, false allegations. But how much does he, I can't imagine that Tony Busby shared too much, if anything, about, assuming he even talked to them about what his side is, right? The thing that's interesting about this particular scenario is that it took place in essentially a public setting on a charter plane with other people presumably around. I mean, it says in the lawsuit that one of the women caught the eye of one of the other players while McManus was supposedly behaving inappropriately, and caught a look that suggested that the player recognized that this was uncalled for. So if there are witnesses, I mean, this is not just your standard, or I shouldn't say standard, but this isn't just a he said, she said. There's only two people that know what happened. So if there's other witnesses, then possibly in either direction, this could make it pretty clear what happened. But when is this going to take place? Again, I don't imagine that the accuser side is going to share any information with Washington. So I think there's only so much they could possibly know from the other side of this equation. And like I said, ultimately just decided this is going to go on for months, and this is not something that we want to be dealing with.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Ben Standig of The Athletic on Grant and Danny. I'm wondering, though, like, how much of this was just they took over ownership of this team in large part due to women being treated poorly in the facility, as employees, and allegations about Dan Snyder, right? And this is the first real test for them in this regard. And it's a pretty replaceable player when you look at the position he plays. If you miss a couple kicks, you get cut. So it's not a whole lot non-football, obviously, but it's not a whole lot different than that. That's kind of my perception. We said this earlier in the show. If he did something wrong, I want him to be in trouble. But I do not like the precedent of an allegation being enough for players to get cut. I think we've seen where that has backfired in other places around the league.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, again, this is not a criminal case, so it's not the same level of of guilt that you have to prove in a civil case versus a criminal case. But obviously, there's some, and yeah, you want to see if an allegation is coming out. Okay, well, what is the deal? How can we tangibly say yes, this did occur, this didn't occur? Enough to make a decision. I hope he gets that opportunity. You're right. It's not necessarily a great look for the team in that regard, but also this is where the reality of tiers come into play, right? I mean, if this was somebody a high draft pick, a player under a multi-year contract who's part of their core, I don't know that they're just simply releasing them. Then maybe it's more wiggle room. Maybe then they're going to say, hey, we need to see where this is. I just think in this case, for what you said, that this is the first test for them in terms of showing, hey, this is a different era where you're taking these things very responsible, and the fact that it's a replaceable position and it's a player who was not here, but prior to a couple of months ago, not much money involved, et cetera. Then I just think it became probably too easy. If it was a more high-profile player, then I don't know what they would have done. But in this circumstance, I think I understand why. If this is how they went to make this decision, I think I understand why they did it.
Ben, you already kind of referenced this, and this is what I posited earlier. I want to get your thought on it. I think the backlash that we're talking about, if let's say McManus is 100% exonerated, much the way that Matt Araiza, the punter from Buffalo, was, where the prosecution in the case literally said he wasn't present when this alleged incident occurred. Like, he wasn't there. But that was a couple of years of his career, and nobody's mad at the Buffalo Bills right now. I don't think there'll be much backlash, unfortunately, if they let go the innocent guy too quickly. If that turns out to be the case, I don't think Washington's going to face much backlash. We could have a different conversation about whether that's good or bad, but I don't think people will be that upset.
Right. And I don't have it in front of me in terms of when the Matt Araiza situation began and when it came out that what you said, that basically he was not involved in the situation. I don't remember if that was under a year, over a year, but it was many months, obviously, a substantial amount of time. And if he had stayed on the Bills, this would have remained a topic one way or the other for all that time that, the coach, the quarterback, the teammates, everybody's going to have to address. It's going to be mentioned in various talk shows, panels, radios, what have you. And, that's the, you hate to say it, but the cost benefit analysis that somebody has to make. And he was like a third round pick too. It wasn't like, not that it should matter too much if it's a third round pick versus an undrafted free agent, but obviously there is some difference there. It's an investment that they had chose to make and moved on. And I'm sure largely because of the not wanting to, the public pressure and recognizing that they're going to have to talk about this until there's a resolution, and maybe the resolution goes against them, and then it gets goes against the player, and it gets even worse. So, yeah, I agree. I don't think they're going to get really any backlash. They moved on pretty quickly. Again, this was not a player that with any ties to this team beyond the last 3 months. So I think they're fine in that regard. But like you guys said, there is a precedent here that's a little can make people feel a little bit uneasy, but at the same point, again, I think we understand kind of why they did what they did.
Ben Standig of The Athletic. He'll get to cover football this week with the team back at the facility. We appreciate you, buddy. We'll check out the work you got coming out of Ashburn in the days ahead.
Awesome, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, be good, man. There's Ben Standig on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. Just a couple of minutes left in the show, which means we got to get you the starting lineups and pitching matchups for the Nationals tonight, presented by the Window Man. Since 1989, the Window Man has been the educational window company. Get your free, no-pressure in-home estimate at thewindowman.com or at their Fairfax showroom.
Opposite Tyler McGill, the Nationals line up thusly. In center field, leading off, Lane Thomas batting second in right field. Eddie Rosario batting third at second base. Luis Garcia. Cleanup duties, DH K-Bear Ruiz batting fifth at third base. Nick Senzel. Jesse Winker in left field batting sixth. Ildemaro Vargas playing shortstop batting seventh. Joey Gallo at first base hitting eighth. And Drew Millis, welcome to the show.
True story. My daughter was on the phone today with my wife. They were in the car. And she said, Dad, I want to tell you something. And I said, okay. She's 5. And she said, do you know who's playing shortstop for the Bunny baseball team? And I said, no, I don't. Who's playing shortstop for the Bunny baseball team? And she said, C.J. Carrots. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Did she really say that?
She said that today.
That is hysterical.
I'm making this story up for a
Yes. I legit thought you were making it up.
I could get my wife on the phone. CJ Carrots is playing shortstop for the Bunny baseball team, is what I was told. Tyler McGill, by the way, 1.69 ERA, just 3 starts, 16 innings, 20 punch-outs. Great start to his season since getting healthy. Mackenzie Gore has been nails for the Nats last 3 times out. Quality starts, 6 1/3, 2 runs against the Phillies. Excellent against Seattle, 7 innings, 8 punchies. And then his first ever no-walk, 10 strikeout game in Atlanta when he pitched into the 6th. He will look to get his ERA down closer to 2 as the best pitcher on the Nats staff. The ace of what has been a top 5 rotation
Ho-hum.
in the National League.
And by the way, we got to give Patrick Corbin his flowers. He was nasty on Friday. He was really, really good, as we've seen him in a while. Maybe that could continue. Anyway, Mackenzie Gore's been good.
Mackenzie Gore has been very, very
There
good.
we go.
I'm walking over to the ballpark.
Here we go.
I'm going to enjoy a little baseball tonight with my guy, Toby Altizer. Speaking of Toby, he's on a podcast. It's an award-winning podcast. It's excellent. They interviewed the VP of player development for the Nationals. Deep dive on all the prospects in the system. Some you've heard of, some you haven't. Eddie Longos. The podcast is Bustin' Loose Baseball. If you like the Nats, you should definitely listen to it. It's very, very good. Speaking of very good, we'll be back at it with another edition of G&D tomorrow. For Darius and Ryan, so long.
Thank you for coming.